Chapter 32-48. Feng bumming in the blink of an eye. 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, Zhuowen had basically been cultivating in seclusion in his room. During these 3 days, the entire Phoenix Blood City gradually became lively. Many of the foreign races in the city knew that the #1 prodigy of the Phoenix people, Feng bumming, had come out of seclusion. It was said that he was rushing towards Phoenix Blood City. Everyone knew that Feng bumming had mobilized so many people to come to Phoenix Blood City because of Zhuowen. Not long after Zhuowen killed Gaoge and the others, the news of the 3 commanders of Phoenix Blood City being killed by him spread. Zhuowen was very clear that for this news to spread so quickly, there must be someone behind the scenes adding fuel to the fire. Zhuowen did not have a hard time guessing that the person who added fuel to the fire was the Sacred Martin clan's UFU. The reason why Zhuowen did not go out to stop it was not because he was tolerant of UFU. On the contrary, he needed UFU to help him spread the news. He guessed that since Feng bumming had come to Phoenix Blood City, he would definitely be accompanied by the experts of the Phoenix people. He could use this opportunity to kill Feng bumming and the experts that came with him at the same time, and use this to weaken the high-end strength of the Phoenix people. This way, the danger of him intruding into the Phoenix people would be lower. After all, the Phoenix people were a large race. If Zhuowen wanted to intrude, he naturally had to think carefully. If he entered rashly and got trapped, not only would he not be able to save Mu Chenxue, but he would also lose his life. This was courting death recklessly. Outside the city gates of Phoenix Blood City, many foreign races gathered. Their gazes fell on the outside of the city gates. Outside the city gates, a group of armored cavalry was approaching. The leader of this group of armored cavalry was a young man wearing a fiery red robe. This red-robed young man was naturally the strongest genius of the Phoenix people, Feng bumming. Elder Hong rode a similarly tall horse and followed beside him. It is indeed the Phoenix people's Feng bumming. He actually came to Phoenix Blood City. Aren't you talking nonsense? The 3 commanders of Phoenix Blood City were all dead. With such a huge matter, the Phoenix people would definitely send people over. Look, Feng bumming is accompanied by Elder Hong from the Phoenix people. He's an expert who has been famous for a long time. It seems that Zhuowen has made a big fuss. He actually forced the Phoenix people to send such a powerful person. The Phoenix people are serious this time. Even if Feng bumming released the news that Zhuowen wouldn't dare to come to Phoenix Blood City, many of the foreign races gathered outside the city gates were discussing fervently as they looked at the approaching cavalry with reverence in their eyes. Feng bumming suddenly pulled the reins, and the tall horse under him stopped in front of the city gate of Phoenix Blood City. His torch-like eyes scanned the surroundings as he shouted, "Everyone, I am Feng bumming of the Phoenix people. In Phoenix Blood City, if you can give me clues about that Zhuowen, the Phoenix people will not mistreat you. I, Feng bumming, hereby make a promise. Anyone who can give me a definite clue will receive a Genesis Divine Elixir." Feng bumming's words were like a stone that fell into the water, causing intense ripples and waves on the surface of the water. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. A Genesis Divine Elixir was extremely valuable in the primitive heaven domain. Many Genesis masters had never even seen a Genesis Divine Elixir before, let alone consume it. It was obvious how tempting a Genesis Divine Elixir was to these foreign races. In an instant, many of the foreign races gathered outside the city gate hurriedly left. They were all anxious to find out news about Zhuowen, hoping to get some clues to exchange for a Genesis Divine Elixir from Feng bumming. Elder Hong came to Feng bumming's side and looked at the deserted city gate. He frowned and said, "Bumming, I don't think that Zhuowen is in Phoenix Blood City. After he killed the 3 great commanders, he must have thought that the Phoenix people won't let him off so easily. He must be on his way to escape from the Phoenix people's territory now." Feng bumming smiled faintly and said, "Elder Hong, didn't you already send an order to investigate the borders of the territory? You also notified the other subordinate races, but there was no news about that Zhuowen. They don't even have any impression of him. What does this mean?" Elder Hong frowned and said, "What you are trying to say is that Zhuowen didn't escape at all. How is this guy so daring? He killed the 3 great commanders and didn't escape immediately. Isn't he too conceited?" I think that Zhuoan must have thought of escaping, but he is very smart. He might think that the most dangerous place is also the safest place. In the Phoenix people's territory, which place is the easiest place for us to overlook? Feng Bumming asked. Phoenix Blood City, Elder Hong said. Yes. This Zhuoan killed Shentuji openly in Phoenix Blood City. As long as one has a normal mind, they would never think that Zhuoan would dare to return to Phoenix Blood City and hide there. It's precisely because of this that Phoenix Blood City is the safest place for Zhuo when instead. Unfortunately, this Zhuoan met me. He is still too inexperienced to play this game in front of me. At this point, Feng Bumming's eyes revealed a proud look, as if everything was under his control. Elder Hong nodded. Feng Bumming's analysis was clear and logical, and he also felt that it made sense. Let's go to the Green Blood Tea House first. Fu has already set up a private room there. Maybe Fu will have some clues there. As Feng Bumming spoke, he urged his horse to take the lead and charged into Phoenix Blood City. Soon, they arrived at the Green Blood Tea House. The foreign tribes who were shopping near the Green Blood Tea House were frightened when they saw Feng Bumming and the others. They quickly hid far away to avoid disturbing Feng Bumming and the others. Inside the Green Blood Tea House, Hu Mai, who was greeting the guests, saw the Phoenix people's cavalry outside. Her delicate body trembled and the tea in her hand almost dropped. Fortunately, Hu Mai reacted quickly and stabilized the tea in her hand. Hu Mai's inadvertent action was noticed by Elder Hong. He glanced at Hu Mai but did not say anything. Instead, he dismounted from his horse and followed Feng Bumming into the Green Blood Tea House. After Hu Mai placed the tea on the table, she quickly went forward and greeted with a standard smile. Isn't this Lord Feng Bumming and Lord Hong of the Phoenix people? I wonder what brought the two of you here. Bring us to the 10th floor of the Earth Pavilion. I have a friend who has already set up a private room there. Feng Bumming said lightly. Hu Mai nodded and smiled. She greeted the two of them and walked towards the 10th floor of the Green Blood Tea House. At the same time, she prayed that Zhuoan would not come downstairs at this time. Otherwise, it would be terrible if he met the two of them. She wanted to send a message to Zhuoan, but Elder Hong kept staring at her. This made her not dare to make any unnecessary movements. Otherwise, it would be easy for them to be suspicious. She did not dare to use her divine thought to send a message. Her strength was too low. Elder Hong and Feng Bumming could easily detect her divine thought. That's right, I am an old friend of Green Blood Sang. After we enter the private room, help me inform Green Blood Sang. I plan to have a good chat with him, Elder Hong asked casually. Hu Mai's heart tightened, but her pretty face showed a standard smile and said, Lord Hong, it's actually like this. Lord Green Blood Sang is now at a critical juncture of his seclusion. He told me in advance that no one is to disturb him. Chapter 3249. Provocation. Blue Blood Mulberry went into seclusion and now he's giving you full authority over the Blue Blood Tea House? Elder Hong stopped in his tracks and sized up Hu Mai with a sharp gaze. This made Hu Mai feel very uncomfortable. A month ago, Blue Blood Mulberry sent me a message and asked me to come to the Blue Blood Tea House if I had the time. He promised to treat me well. In the blink of an eye, he went into seclusion and gave you full authority. Is Blue Blood Mulberry blind? Hearing this, Hu Mai's delicate body trembled, but she quickly calmed down and said, I didn't know that Master Blue Blood Mulberry suddenly went into seclusion. He only said that he had some enlightenment, and he was very anxious at that time. He only gave me instructions and immediately went into seclusion. I still can't believe that he actually let me take charge of the Blue Blood Tea House. Speaking of this, Hu Mai's beautiful eyes revealed a look of excitement and her face flushed red. Elder Hong looked deeply at Hu Mai and nodded. Since Blue Blood Mulberry is in seclusion, then there's no need to disturb him. Continue to bring us to the 10th floor of the Earth Room. Hu Mai quickly responded and continued to lead the way. After a while, the three of them entered the 10th floor. Hu Mai pointed at the door next to the Heaven Room and said, My lords, that's the Earth Room. Feng Bumming glanced at the Heaven Room and said indifferently, I, Feng Bumming, have always wanted the best room. Who's staying in the Heaven Room? I'll pay double the price to get the people inside out. Hu Mai's heart skipped a beat and she quickly said, I'm not sure who the guests in the heaven room are. But judging from their auras, they're not ordinary people. Also, the Blue Blood Tea House has a rule that we can't casually drive away guests, so. Speaking of this, Hu Mai's beautiful face was filled with embarrassment. You dare to refute me? Feng Bumming stared at Hu Mai sternly as a powerful aura suddenly surged over Poochie. Hu Mai's strength was too weak. The moment she came into contact with this powerful aura, she spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated until she hit the wall behind her. Creak. At this time, the door to the earth room opened, and the beautiful Yuefu walked out from inside. Bumming, you're finally here. Yuefu excitedly pounced forward and hugged Feng Bumming. Feng Bumming did not refuse. He hugged Yue's slender waist and said with a smile, It's all because my baby was bullied. That's why I rushed over to see you. Yuefu giggled and revealed a shy expression. Elder Hong coughed dryly and said, Bu Ming, Miss Fu, let's go in first before talking. We still have some questions to ask you. Yuefu knew what Elder Hong meant and naturally did not refuse. With a chuckle, she led Feng Bumming and Elder Hong into the earth-ranked room. Seeing that Feng Bumming and the others had ignored her and entered the room, Hu Mai heaved a sigh of relief. She was really afraid that Feng Bumming would kill her indiscriminately. He knew very well that with Feng Bumming's status, no one would say anything even if he killed her on the spot. Hu Mai looked at the heaven room and hesitated for a moment. She did not knock on the door and instead left the 10th floor. However, after leaving the 10th floor, Hu Mai sent a message to Zhuowen, informing him of what had happened and asking him to be careful. Of course, in her message, she advised Zhuowen to change rooms. After all, he was too close to Feng Bumming and the others, just next door. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's message was to tell Hu Mai not to worry and that he would take care of this matter. Hu Mai sighed softly. She did not care much about this matter. She really could not see through Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen had stayed behind to fight Feng Bumming? Although Hu Mai knew that Zhuowen was very strong, she knew that even if Zhuowen could not win against Feng Bumming, his life would not be in danger. However, Feng Bumming did not come alone. The Phoenix people, Elder Hong, also came with him. Elder Hong was a true expert. Because of his powerful Phoenix bloodline, his strength was extremely terrifying. Even if the 3 commanders of Phoenix Blood City joined forces, they would not be able to kill Elder Hong. In Hu Mai's opinion, no matter how strong Zhuowen was, could he be stronger than Elder Hong? Once Zhuowen dared to appear in front of Feng Bumming, his fate would be miserable. In the heaven room, Zhuowen put away the communication jade talisman and said to Siku, who was sitting not far away, Siku, help me pass a message. Pass this jade talisman to Feng Bumming in the earth room. After Zhuowen passed the jade talisman to Siku, he got up and left the room. Siku was stunned. He looked at the jade talisman but did not read the contents. Instead, he used his innate ability to turn himself into an insignificant servant in the Green Blood Tea House. He knocked on the door of the earth room. Soon, the door opened and Yuefu walked out. Yuefu's beautiful eyes frowned. She looked coldly at the servant outside the door and said, I need a reasonable explanation for knocking on the door. Otherwise, you will die here today. Siku was submissive. He quickly passed the jade talisman to Yuefu and said submissively, Guest, the guest next door asked me to pass this jade talisman to you. It is said that there is very important information in it about that Zhuowen. Upon hearing the name Zhuowen, Yuefu's beautiful eyes shrank. She quickly took the jade talisman with a serious expression. You can leave now. After Yuefu said this, she immediately closed the door. In the hall of the earth room, Feng Bumming and Elder Hong looked at Yuefu, who was walking back with a serious expression, with confusion. Yuefu, what's wrong? What is the jade talisman in your hand? Feng Bumming asked. Yuefu sat beside Feng Bumming and handed the jade talisman to him, saying, Bumming, this jade talisman was given to me by a servant of the Green Blood Tea House. It is said that the jade talisman contains information about that Zhuowen. Hearing this, Feng Bumming's expression suddenly became serious. He took the jade talisman and checked it with his divine sense. After a while, Feng Bumming's expression became ugly. He threw the jade talisman on the ground and said in exasperation, That Zhuoan is really arrogant. Yuefu and Elder Hong did not understand what was going on. Elder Hong quickly asked, "Bumming, what is going on? What is the content of this jade talisman that made you so unhappy?" The information in this jade talisman was left behind by that Zhuoan. He actually said that I am not qualified to challenge him. If I am not convinced, I can go to the Weeping Blood platform to find him. He will be waiting for me there. Feng Bumming said coldly. Elder Hong and Yuefu both had strange expressions on their faces. This Zhuoan was too arrogant. He actually said that Feng Bumming was not qualified to challenge him. Who did he think he was that he dared to say such words? Where is the person who gave this jade talisman? Elder Hong asked. That servant said that it was given by the person in the room next door. Should we break into the room next door to take a look? Yuefu said with uncertainty. That is the heaven room. If we break in now, there will definitely be no one. Let's go to the Weeping Blood platform. Since this Zhuoan said that he will be waiting for him there, then I, Feng Bumming, will fulfill his wish. I will let him dye the Weeping Blood platform red with blood. Chapter 3250. On the Blood Weeping platform. Zhuoan arrived near the Blood Weeping platform and saw the tall and majestic platform in front of him. It was the Blood Weeping platform. The Blood Weeping platform had been destroyed by him. This Blood Weeping platform should have been renovated by the people of Phoenix Blood City. It looked new. Most of the foreign races that passed by didn't seem to be surprised by this new Weeping Blood platform. They didn't even give it a second glance when they passed by. Zhuoan found a restaurant near the Blood Weeping platform and chose a seat by the window. He ordered a few dishes and immortal wine and drank by himself, silently waiting for Feng Bumming and the others. He knew that Feng Bumming should be here soon. Master Zhuo. A figure carefully walked over and sat opposite Zhuoan. Zhuoan glanced at the figure and asked indifferently, "Have you handed the jade slip to Feng Bumming and the others?" This figure was Siku, who had been sent to the Earth Room by Zhuoan to deliver the jade slip. It has been successfully delivered to Yuefu. Feng Bumming should have already seen the information in the jade slip. "Master Zhuo, I wonder what you wrote in the jade slip." Siku hesitated for a moment. He was very curious about the contents of the jade slip. "I said that I will wait for him at the Blood Weeping platform. Ask Feng Bumming to get over here," Zhuoan said indifferently. Siku's heart tightened and a strange look appeared in his eyes. He did not expect Zhuoan to say such arrogant words. However, Siku did not care too much. He thought that Zhuoan was just talking and would not face Feng Bumming directly. After all, Feng Bumming's strength was terrifying and he had an expert like Elder Hong by his side. As long as one's mind was normal, they would not face Feng Bumming directly. In Siku's opinion, Zhuoan's information was just to tease Feng Bumming. "Master Zhuo, this move of yours is quite brilliant. When Feng Bumming comes to the Blood Weeping platform aggressively and realizes that you are not there, he will probably be angered to death," Siku said with a chuckle. "Who said I was just toying with him?" Zhuoan said indifferently. Siku was stunned. He asked cautiously, "Master Zhuo, you're not really planning to go against Feng Bumming, are you?" Zhuoan nodded and did not speak. He drank a mouthful of celestial wine and his gaze landed on the Blood Weeping platform that stood in the middle of the street not far away. He faintly said, "Today, I will make Feng Bumming regret coming to Phoenix Blood City." Siku opened his mouth, but in the end, he swallowed his words of persuasion. Although he hadn't spent much time with Zhuoan, he could tell that once Zhuoan made up his mind, even 10 bulls wouldn't be able to pull him back. He was very stubborn. Suddenly, there was an uproar in front of the street. Then, the dense group of outsiders opened up a rather wide path. They saw a group of cavalrymen galloping down the street in front of them. They didn't care about the other races on the street. This group of cavalrymen was very rude and unreasonable. Those in front of them who couldn't dodge in time were directly crushed by the cavalrymen. Blood spurted out and they were seriously injured. However, these unlucky outsiders didn't dare to find trouble with this group of cavalrymen. They could only drag their seriously injured bodies and leave dejectedly. This was because they all recognized the flag on this group of cavalrymen. It was the symbol of the Phoenix people. In other words, this group of cavalrymen belonged to the Phoenix people. Many people could guess that the leader of this group should be the #1 prodigy of the Phoenix people, Fong Bumming. Who in Phoenix Blood City could afford to offend such a big shot? In the restaurant, Zhuowen's gaze fell on Elder Hong, who was beside Fong Bumming. He couldn't help but frown. He knew this Elder Hong. Back in the Starry Sky battlefield, he had chased after him. He clearly remembered that when he controlled the Starry Sky cannon, the first person he destroyed was this Elder Hong. Logically speaking, this Elder Hong should have completely fallen. How could he still appear in front of him alive? Stop! In front of the cavalryman, Fong Bumming suddenly pulled the reins and stopped the big horse under him in front of the blood-weeping platform. When Fong Bumming stopped, the mighty cavalry behind him also stopped in unison. The demon horses neighed and their iron hooves stomped on the ground, causing dust to fly up into the sky. It had a heaven-shaking power. Fong Bumming flipped off his horse and rushed onto the blood-weeping platform. As for Elder Hong and Yuefu, they jumped off their big horses and stood at the edge of the blood-weeping platform, silently watching Fong Bumming on the platform. Yuefu frowned slightly. She looked around and didn't see Zhuowen's figure. She said in a deep voice, "Elder Hong, that Zhuowen can't be playing with us, right? I don't see him at all." Elder Hong's expression wasn't good. He originally thought that Zhuowen, who was so arrogant, would wait for them at the blood-weeping platform and then obediently send himself to his death. He didn't expect that there was no one at the blood-weeping platform, and they were like fools, waiting at the blood-weeping platform. Fong Bumming's eyes were calm. He stood on the platform like a javelin and said in a loud voice, "Zhuowen, since you asked me to come to the blood-weeping platform for a battle, now that I'm here, you're hiding in the dark like a coward. I know you're nearby. If you still have the guts, then come out. I'll wait for you here for 10 breaths. If you don't come out, I'll personally go to the Devouring clan and wipe out your clan." The corner of Fong Bumming's mouth curved into a mocking smile. Then, he closed his eyes and crossed his arms in front of his chest, waiting silently. "Hey! That Zhuowen is from the Devouring clan? How is that possible? The Devouring clan is just a small clan. The strongest clan leader is only a creator. When did they have such a monstrous genius like Zhuowen? It's hard to believe, but Fong Bumming is the #1 heaven's pride of the Phoenix people. His news shouldn't be wrong, right?" Because of Fong Bumming's appearance, many alien tribes gathered around the blood-weeping platform. When the pagans heard that Zhuowen was from the Devouring clan, they were astounded. Some of them even started to have other ideas. Zhuowen's face darkened. He wasn't surprised that Fong Bumming knew that he was from the Devouring clan. However, Fong Bumming was too cunning. He had announced his clan directly. Zhuowen had killed the 3 commanders of the Phoenix Blood City. He was in the eye of the storm. Many people suspected that he had a big secret. Otherwise, he couldn't be so intimidating. In the Phoenix Blood City, many alien tribes were eyeing Zhuowen covetously. And now, his clan's information had been announced. Zhuowen understood clearly that many alien tribes had their eyes on the Devouring clan. Luckily, Zhuowen had set up the Sky Passage Great Formation in the Devouring clan. Otherwise, if many experts from the Phoenix Blood City came to the Devouring clan wouldn't have survived. As long as the Phoenix people didn't attack with all of their powers, Zhuowen was confident that the Sky Passage Great Formation of the Devouring clan wouldn't have a problem. 10 breaths of time passed quickly. Fong Bumming slowly opened his eyes, looking around. He said coldly, "You're a coward, indeed. From today on, I, Fong Bumming, announce that the Devouring clan will be erased from the Great Desolate Heaven domain." Hearing Fong Bumming, everybody was in an uproar. The alien tribes under the platform disdained Zhuowen. He had invited Fong Bumming to fight, but now, he had run away. He was a coward with no principles. They all knew that Zhuowen was too intimidating. It was understandable that Zhuowen didn't have the guts to come out. "You're Fong Bumming, right? I want to ask you. Who do you think you are? How dare you say that you want to erase the Devouring clan?" A calm and indifferent voice slowly came from a restaurant not far from the blood-weeping platform. Numerous gazes gathered in that direction. Many of the foreign races saw a figure slowly standing up from a seat by the window of the restaurant. Chapter 3251. Qing Mang. Within the tavern, all of the foreign races who had been watching the commotion were also attracted by this figure. Zhuowen's position was really too remote. Although it was near the window, it was the most remote of all the window seats. If one didn't look carefully, it was really hard to notice. Now that Zhuowen had stood up, all of the outsiders in the tavern revealed looks of surprise. But soon, the originally lively restaurant burst into an uproar. Many people didn't expect that Zhuowen, who had been the talk of the town in Phoenix Blood City recently, would actually be leisurely drinking wine in this restaurant. Was there something wrong with this fellow's brain? Didn't they say that Zhuowen killed the 3 great commanders of Phoenix Blood City? Why is his aura so weak? It seems like he's only a creator. Could it be that the legend is wrong? Or could this guy be an imposter? After a short commotion, many of the foreign races in the restaurant calmed down. Their eyes were filled with suspicion as they looked at Zhuowen. Because Zhuowen's aura was really too weak. It was only the aura of a creator. This kind of guy could also kill the 3 sky-piercing realm commanders of Phoenix Blood City. This was a joke, right? Zhuowen ignored the commotion around him. Instead, he instructed Siku and walked out of the restaurant. However, the moment he stepped out of the restaurant, a large hand stopped him. Zhuowen stopped in his tracks and looked at the figure in front of him. This was a foreign race member who was more than 2 meters tall. His head was flat and covered with green scales. The pupils of his eyes were vertical. In addition, this foreign race member had a huge tail that looked like a lizard's. It seemed to be made of steel and emitted a faint metallic luster. This lizard man's aura was rather vast. He was actually a late-stage creator. That pair of vertical pupils stared coldly at Zhuowen, full of malicious intent. It's Qing Mang of the green lizard race. She's a genius of the green lizard race. She's a famous expert in the Phoenix Blood City region. I didn't expect this guy to suddenly stand out. Can't you tell? Qing Mang obviously saw that Zhuowen's cultivation level was not high. She was trying to show off in front of Feng Bumming. She was trying to please Feng Bumming. So that's how it is. If I had known earlier, I would have stood up too. This way, I might be able to gain Feng Bumming's favor. Who knows, I might be able to build a good relationship with Feng Bumming. Within the inn, many of the foreign races let out looks of regret. They were upset that they had not acted fast enough to stop Zhuowen before the green light could reach him. After all, Zhuowen was just a creator. To them, he was not that strong. Even if they could not defeat him, they could at least show off in front of Feng Bumming. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But now that Qing Mang had already blocked Zhuowen, they naturally couldn't go up. Wasn't that going against Qing Mang? Qing Mang was a famous expert in Phoenix Blood City. She was an existence that no one in the restaurant could afford to offend. They naturally wouldn't come out to provoke Qing Mang now. Feng Bumming stood quietly on the Weeping Blood platform, watching with interest as Qing Mang blocked Zhuowen's path. Of course, Feng Bumming's main attention was not on Qing Mang, but on Zhuowen, who was standing in front of her. Although he had heard from Yuefu that Zhuowen's cultivation level was not high, he was only a creator. Feng Bumming did not believe it at first, but now that he had seen Zhuowen with his own eyes, he knew that what Yuefu had said was true. A mere creator could actually kill Gaoge and the others. This Zhuowen is definitely not simple. He must have a big secret on him. However, it's a pity that Zhuowen has met me. His blood is about to splatter on the Weeping Blood platform, and all his secrets are destined to be mine. Feng Bumming sneered as he thought to himself. Old Hong frowned as he looked at Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's face was covered with the unique scales of the Devouring clan, and his appearance was not quite the same as the human Zhuowen's. But Old Hong still felt a sense of familiarity from Zhuowen, as if he had seen this person somewhere before. Old Hong shook his head as a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He knew that he was overthinking. The Zhuowen in front of him only had the same name as the human Zhuowen, but they were actually not the same person. After all, this guy was a genuine member of the Devouring clan. Old Hong could not feel a trace of the human aura from Zhuowen at all. A good dog doesn't block the way. Zhuowen stopped and looked indifferently at Qing Mang. Qing Mang grinned, his smile full of malevolence. He stared at Zhuowen and said, "You're going to be a dead man soon. I won't argue with a dead man. To deal with trash like you, Master Feng Bumming doesn't need to do it himself. I'm enough. I'm giving you a chance now. If you kill yourself in front of me, I'll leave your corpse intact." Qing Mang stood at his spot. His eyes were filled with arrogance as if he was looking down at Zhuowen from a high position. Idiot. Zhuowen didn't want to mind Qing Mang, who thought highly of himself. He threw a punch at Qing Mang's face. "You dare to attack me? You're courting death. Ha ha." Qing Mang laughed, the malevolence in his eyes thickening. He wanted to make this hateful member of the Devouring Clan regret attacking him. He would tear this member of the Devouring Clan into pieces with his bare hands. However, he didn't want him to die. Letting him live would be more painful than death. However, shortly after, Qing Mang's face changed. He grimaced and paled. He found that he couldn't move. A terrifying aura had locked him, making him stand stiffly at his spot. "No," Qing Mang broke out in cold sweat. How could he not know that this was the doing of the young man in front of him? At this moment, Qing Mang finally knew how terrifying the young man in front of him was. If he had known that this person was so powerful, he wouldn't have come here to seek death even if he had to kill himself. Bang! Unfortunately, Qing Mang didn't have the chance to regret. Zhuowen's right fist hit Qing Mang's head like a meteor. At that moment, the power of the Pangu sacred body poured into Qing Mang's head. Qing Mang's head exploded like a watermelon. The power was too terrifying. Qing Mang's god soul didn't even have time to escape before it was torn into pieces. He couldn't be more dead. Qing Mang's corpse fell heavily to the ground, emitting a dull thud. The entire restaurant fell into a lifeless silence. None of the foreign races had expected that Qing Mang, who had just said that she would kill Zhuowen, would stand there motionlessly and be struck in the head by Zhuowen, dying just like that. What's wrong with Qing Mang? Why did he stand there and let Zhuowen hit him? Is there something wrong with his head? I think it's strange too. Did Qing Mang lose her mind or something? He didn't even dodge and let Zhuowen attack him directly. Is he courting death? The restaurant was in an uproar. Most of the outsiders didn't know what was going on. Only a few of them understood. You're really bold. You killed my guest in my restaurant, and you want to leave like this? It's not that easy. The moment Zhuowen stepped out of the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant snorted and flew out. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched the back of Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen stopped in his tracks, but he didn't turn around. Instead, a sword light suddenly shot out from his waist, bringing along a long rainbow. Chapter 3252. Silent Battle Phoenix Boom. The door of the restaurant was smashed into pieces. The signboard above the door shook violently and fell from above. The restaurant was in chaos. Many of the foreign races retreated into the depths of the restaurant and looked at the shopkeeper's corpse that was nailed to the door in fear. They found that the shopkeeper's chest was pierced with a blood sword that was as bright as a drop of blood. The shopkeeper had completely lost his breath. Zhuowen did not stop and continued to walk toward the weeping blood platform. The blood celestial sword swept out and returned to Zhuowen's macro world. Solemn expressions surfaced in the eyes of the numerous foreign race individuals. They finally understood that Zhuowen did not manage to kill Qing Mang by luck. Neither was it because Qing Mang was distracted, allowing him to launch a sneak attack. It was that Zhuowen was truly talented and had the battle strength of a master. He was an extremely powerful expert. Zhuowen naturally knew what the shopkeeper of the restaurant wanted. He wanted to use this as an excuse to keep him and show off in front of Feng Bumming. He also knew that it was too strange for him to kill Qing Mang. Many people in the restaurant thought that he was lucky to have made a move when Qing Mang was distracted, and finally killed Qing Mang. Now that he had used the blood celestial sword to kill the shopkeeper of the restaurant in front of everyone, he knew that those annoying flies in the restaurant would truly recognize his powerful strength. The Phoenix People's steel cavalry stood on both sides and stared coldly at Zhuowen. A silent killing intent surged out from the Phoenix People's steel cavalry and was directed at Zhuowen. Zhuowen turned a blind eye to the steel cavalry's killing intent. Instead, he stomped his right foot and an even more terrifying killing intent burst out from his body. In an instant, with Zhuowen as the center, the terrifying killing intent swept out and formed a killing intent storm. The expressions of the steel cavalry on both sides changed slightly. The moment they came into contact with the killing intent storm, they retreated with pale faces and spat out mouthfuls of blood. They were extremely embarrassed. Zhuowen did not care about the Phoenix People's steel cavalry at all. Instead, he took a step and landed on the Weeping Blood platform as if he had teleported. He stood steadily in front of Feng Bumming. Feng Bumming narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhuowen seriously. He knew that he had underestimated Zhuowen previously. From the strength that Zhuowen had shown just now, he knew that this person should have the strength of a master in the early stage of a master. But that was all. Feng Bumming was confident that he could get rid of Zhuowen in a short time. After all, Zhuowen was only clan. Feng Bumming was of the noble bloodline of the Phoenix people. Zhuowen, and he was of the noble bloodline studio of the Phoenix people. His bloodline was of the Phoenix people. Feng Bumming raised his chin slightly and looked at Zhuowen. He said proudly, "I've heard about you from Elfu. Your strength is not bad, but if you want to fight with me, it's still not enough. Now, I'll give you a chance. Pledge your allegiance to the Phoenix people and hand over your spirit ring. I'll consider letting you be the guest of the Phoenix people. This is your highest honor. You have no reason to reject it." Zhuowen sneered and said, "With just you? That's right, the elf you mentioned, she's already my woman. When we were on the Weeping Blood platform, I gave Elfu 3 Tai Chi energy gathering pills as a token of love. Many people saw it at that time. Please call me woman in the future. Don't call me Elfu. Please call me Miss Elfu. You don't have the right to call me Elfu." Feng Bumming was stunned for a moment before he flew into a rage. He looked coldly at the pale-faced elf below the stage and noticed that the latter's expression was strange. He knew that Zhuowen's words were not groundless. "Bumming, this Zhuowen is simply spouting nonsense. He's slandering me. I've never admitted that I'm his woman, and I've never accepted any Tai Chi energy gathering pills from him," Elfu hurriedly explained. Unfortunately, Feng Bumming stopped Elfu and said coldly, "Elfu, you don't have to explain. I know what I'm doing." Elfu's pretty face turned pale. She saw anger and indifference in Feng Bumming's eyes. She knew that Feng Bumming believed Zhuowen's words. This made Yuefu extremely nervous. "Zhuowen, of all the things you shouldn't have done, you shouldn't have touched my woman. Do you know what the consequences of touching my woman are?" As he spoke, Feng Bumming made a grabbing motion with his right hand. A blood-red flame condensed in his palm and finally turned into a long spear burning with blood-red flames. Back then, a genius from the Sacred Martin clan, Yuan Yi, looked at Elfu too much in front of me. I gouged out his eyes, destroyed his cultivation, and threw him into the wilderness to fend for himself. A deacon from Phoenix Blood City, Kang Wu, used his hand to touch Elfu. His limbs were crippled and he was better off dead. A proud and arrogant genius of the Baisha clan once used words to flirt with Elfu. His head was twisted off by me, and now, you're even more insatiable than the 3 of them. Your fate will be worse than death." At this point, Feng Bumming suddenly stomped on the ground in front of him. A terrifying killing intent accompanied by a blazing wave of air suddenly exploded on the blood-weeping platform. The blood-red flames burned more and more fiercely, spreading in all directions with extreme speed. In an instant, the entire blood-weeping platform was engulfed in blood-red flames, as if it was a tragic enchantment. The moment the surrounding foreign races saw the terrifying blood-red flames around the blood-weeping platform, their pupils shrank. They were all dumbfounded and revealed looks of shock. So powerful. Is this Feng Bumming's true strength? This power is probably beyond the initial stage of the Master of Heaven Ascension. No wonder he's the most powerful genius of the Phoenix people. He's so terrifying. I heard that he's only just become a Master of Heaven Ascension, but he already has such terrifying combat strength. We're far inferior. That Zhuowen is dead meat. Feng Buming is so powerful. How can this Zhuoan be a match for him? The surrounding foreign races discussed animatedly. They could feel the terrifying aura from Zhuoan's body and did not think highly of him at all. Elder Hong, who was standing below the platform, had his hands behind his back. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he silently looked at the blood-weeping platform. He was very satisfied with Feng Buming. He had just become a master of heaven ascension, but he already had such a terrifying aura. Elder Hong knew that Feng Buming would definitely have a place in the Sorcerer's Song Conference. He would compete with the top geniuses of the other top 10 tribes for the quota to enter the ancestral sorcerer's magical pond. As for Zhuoan, Elder Hong completely ignored him. He knew that Feng Buming would definitely win this battle. In his eyes, Zhuoan had become a stepping stone for Feng Buming. Bang! The moment Feng Buming's aura reached its peak, he took another step forward. A terrifying power spread out, and countless cracks appeared on the blood-weeping platform. Don't worry, I won't kill you directly. Instead, I'll cripple you and bring you back for torture. Feng Buming's lips curled into a cruel smile. He took a third step, and his figure merged into the blood-red flames, disappearing from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already above Zhuoan's head. The long spear in his hand spun violently, and the tip of the spear rolled up a terrifying flame. He pointed it directly at Zhuoan's Tianling acupoint. Zhuoan's gaze was solemn. Feng Buming was indeed a genius. Even he was a little moved by his combat power. Unfortunately, Feng Buming was facing a freak who was even more monstrous than him. Whoosh! A sword radiance that carried the power of thunder and fire swept out and slashed the blood-red fire spear. The powerful force caused Feng Buming to groan, and he could not help but start to retreat. At the same time, two sword radiances from his right hand attacked Feng Buming from the front and back. Feng Buming's body spun, and his reaction was very fast. He blocked the two sword radiances that suddenly appeared. The moment he blocked the two sword radiances, Zhuoan appeared behind Feng Buming as if he had teleported. He fiercely punched Feng Buming's right eye. Feng Buming's mind was completely focused on the sword radiance that suddenly appeared, and he did not guard against Zhuoan at all. When he reacted, Zhuoan's fist was already very close, and it fiercely smashed into his right eye. Feng Buming cried out in pain and fell to the ground from mid-air. He was in an extremely sorry state. Chapter 3253. Overwhelming Abuse. The entire place fell into silence. The battle just now happened too quickly, like a flash of lightning. In the blink of an eye, Feng Buming was knocked down by Zhuoan's punch, and his right eye was swollen like a panda's eye. Elder Hong frowned slightly. Zhuoan's strength was somewhat beyond his expectations. He had actually made Feng Buming suffer a great loss in just one exchange. However, Elder Hong was not worried because he knew Feng Buming's strength the best. Just now, Feng Buming had only used 50% of his strength. If Feng Buming had used his full strength and displayed the divine technique of the phoenix, even he might not have been able to take Feng Buming down easily. On the contrary, Yuefu, who was standing beside Elder Hong, looked a little nervous. Zhuoan's strength was also beyond her expectations. She was a little worried that Zhuoan would not be a match for Feng Buming. Zhuoan landed on the blood-weeping platform. The three divine swords, Thunder Fire Sword, Blood Immortal Sword, and Death Sacrifice Sword, floated around his body in a ring shape, forming a sword array. Feng Buming, the #1 heaven's pride of the Phoenix people. You don't seem to live up to your name. Zhuoan looked directly at Feng Buming with a contemptuous expression. Feng Buming was furious. Zhuoan dared to look at him with contempt. What right did he have? Zhuoan, you've angered me. I underestimated you just now, but from now on, you'll have to accept my anger. I'll use all my strength to kill you on the blood-weeping platform. Feng Buming had already decided not to let Zhuoan live. He was not in the mood to torture Zhuoan. Zhuoan had embarrassed him just now. This was a serious blow to his dignity. How could he endure such humiliation? As for this sort of humiliation, only Zhuoan's blood would be able to wash away the humiliation he had suffered. After Feng Buming finished speaking, Zhuowen could clearly feel that the temperature and power of the blood flames around the blood-weeping platform had reached an unprecedented level of terror. In the blink of an eye, the crimson flames transformed into crimson phoenixes one after another. A total of 9 blood-colored phoenixes soared into the sky and eventually circled around Feng Buming. Under the support of the 9 blood-colored phoenixes, Feng Buming's aura skyrocketed rapidly, reaching an extremely terrifying level in an instant. To be able to force me to use the 9th level of the Divine Phoenix Tome, you're pretty good. Today, you will die a worthy death. After Feng Buming finished speaking, he had already disappeared, as if he had evaporated into thin air. So fast. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He knew that Feng Buming did not really disappear, but at that moment, he moved at such a high speed that he could not see Feng Buming's figure clearly. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the sound of metal clashing rang out around Zhuowen. The 3 divine swords surrounding him actually burst into sparks. Among them, the sacrificial death sword and the blood deity sword were the weakest. The moment they collided, they were sent flying. However, the aura of the thunder fire sword was the strongest and it managed to block Feng Buming's attack. However, Xiao Hei was having a hard time blocking it. Although it relied on the Shenyang divine stone to raise its level to the middle stage of the ascending heaven level, it was after all just a divine weapon. Although its combat power was not weak, there was still a certain gap between it and a true middle stage ascending heaven master. After Feng Buming displayed the 9th level of the Divine Phoenix Tome, his speed had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Xiao Hei was having a hard time blocking it. Moreover, Zhuowen's eyes were very sharp. He could see that in less than 50 rounds, the defense of the Thunder Fire Sword would definitely be broken by Feng Buming. Zhuowen stomped his right foot on the ground and displayed the divine powers of Destiny Spacetime Kill. A long purple river swept out from the void behind him and swept toward Feng Buming. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that the purple river did not catch up with Feng Buming. Feng Buming easily dodged the purple river. Bang! A blood-colored flame swept over, filled with terrifying spear intent, and swept across the thunder fire sword. Xiao Hei's cursing stopped, and with a muffled groan, he was swept away by the spear. Die! Feng Buming's eyes were ferocious. With a sudden twist of his hand, the blood-colored spear brought about a surge of blood-colored sparks and rushed into Zhuowen's chest. What made Feng Buming ecstatic was that Zhuowen seemed to be stunned. His spear directly pierced through Zhuowen's chest. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong. The power of his blood spear was extremely terrifying. After it pierced through the flesh, the powerful blood flames would definitely burn the other party into blood-colored ashes. However, other than the wound on Zhuowen's chest, his entire body was not burned by the blood flames. Moreover, this Zhuowen was grinning at him. Was he teasing him? What was going on? Zhuowen naturally let Feng Buming's spear pierce him on purpose. With his current physical strength, it was not a problem for him to take Feng Buming's spear head-on. The main reason was that Feng Buming's speed was too fast, and he could not keep up. He could only use this trick of self-injury. At the moment when Feng Buming was distracted, Zhuowen's right hand suddenly turned into a claw and grabbed Feng Buming's neck. His left hand formed a fist and mercilessly smashed towards Feng Buming's face. Feng Buming burst out with all his strength, trying to break free from Zhuowen. However, to his horror, a mysterious force emerged from Zhuowen's body and suppressed him. Even the blood in his body seemed to have dimmed, and he was unable to break free from Zhuowen's restraint. While Feng Buming was still in shock over this matter, Zhuowen's fist had already arrived. Immediately after, Zhuowen's fists fell like raindrops, landing on Feng Buming's face, causing him to scream in pain. All the foreign races below the arena were stunned. Just now, when Feng Buming burst out the power of the 9th level of the divine techniques of the Phoenix, the power that erupted was still vivid in their minds. Not long after, Feng Buming was being suppressed and beaten up by Zhuowen. Moreover, he was being beaten up ruthlessly. This scene was too strange, and they could not bear to look at it directly. At this moment, the smile on Elder Hong's face completely froze. Bastard, I must kill you today. Feng Buming seemed to have gone crazy, and the 9 blood phoenixes around him suddenly cried out. Immediately, a powerful force rushed over like a wave, and Zhuoan was involuntarily pushed back by more than 10 steps. When he came back to his senses, he realized that a 10th blood phoenix had appeared around Fengbumming, adding a powerful force to Fengbumming. However, when Zhuoan's gaze fell on Fengbumming's face, he could not help but laugh. Fengbumming's handsome face was completely swollen at this moment, which was the result of being beaten up by Zhuoan. Below the crying blood stage, the surrounding foreign races saw Fengbumming's appearance and recalled his previous appearance, and many of them could not help but laugh. Fengbumming was flustered and exasperated, and the laughter below the stage was like a needle that pierced into his heart, making him feel even more humiliated. You forced me to use the 10th level of the divine techniques of the Phoenix, and today, you will pay a painful price. I want you to regret being born in this world. Fengbumming's roar had just finished when his figure disappeared from the spot like a ghost. At this moment, Fengbumming's speed was even faster than before, and the surrounding foreign races could not even catch a glimpse of Fengbumming's figure. There was an uproar below the stage. Fengbumming's speed was too abnormal, and many of the foreign races thought that Zhuoan's time of death had come. Zhuoan was very calm, and the moment Fengbumming disappeared, he used his remarkable power, the Eye of the Torch Dragon. In an instant, the surrounding vision became clear, and even the trajectory of Fengbumming's movement was clear in his eyes. Poof! Zhuoan suddenly pulled out the blood-fire spear that had pierced through his chest, and then he stomped on the ground with his right foot, and the powerful force shook the ground violently. Then, Zhuoan quickly turned around, and the blood-fire spear in his hand stabbed behind him. Poof! The sound of the spear piercing into flesh was heard, and then the sound of blood dripping onto the ground converged together. At this moment, the crying blood stage seemed so crisp and strange. In front of Zhuoan, Fengbumming stopped in front of Zhuoan as if time had stopped. His neck was pierced by the spear, and blood poured out like a flood from a dam. Fengbumming stared at Zhuoan, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How was this possible? Chapter 3254. Double the crime. Zhuoan did not care about Fengbumming's shock. His right hand tightly gripped the end of the blood-colored fire spear, and his left hand twisted violently, hitting the fire spear. Terrifying energy ripples exploded from the blood-colored fire spear, and then the entire blood-colored fire spear exploded. The vast and powerful energy quickly spread in all directions. Fengbumming's eyes were wide open. His neck had been pierced by the blood-colored fire spear, and now the energy of the blood-colored fire spear had exploded. He was the first to bear the brunt of this energy. Poochie! Fengbumming's neck exploded, and a bloody mist spread in all directions. Fengbumming screamed. His neck exploded, and his head separated from his body. Blood spurted out like a water column, and he looked extremely miserable. However, Fengbumming's movements were very fast. After his neck exploded, a golden light burst out from between his eyebrows, and then Fengbumming fled in a panic in the form of a small person. It was Fengbumming's divine soul. Zhuoan had long been prepared for this move of Fengbumming's. He pointed with his right hand, and the thunderfire sword whizzed out, wrapped in terrifying thunderfire energy, and rushed straight toward Fengbumming's divine soul. Fengbumming naturally saw the thunderfire sword rushing toward him, especially when he felt the terrifying pressure emanating from the thunderfire sword. His eyes were wide open, and he felt the threat of death. No, Fengbumming struggled desperately, trying to escape from the thunderfire sword, but he realized in despair that the chi of the thunderfire sword had completely locked onto him, and he could not escape from such a terrifying and powerful chi. Hee. Little darling, don't struggle anymore. Just stay there obediently and let this dragon lord take care of you. Xiao Hei cackled, and his laughter was extremely wretched. It was as if he had been single for many years and had seen a peerless beauty for the first time. He was extremely smug. Bang! However, just as the thunderfire sword was about to catch up with Fengbumming and kill him with one strike, an extremely terrifying energy burst out, and then a palm slapped hard on the thunderfire sword. F***CK. Which bastard beat your grandpa long to death? Xiao Hei obviously did not notice the sudden appearance of the palm, nor did she expect the palm to be so powerful. She was sent flying as she cursed the 18 generations of the palm's owner's ancestors. Zhuoan raised his head and noticed that the person standing in front of Feng Buming's soul was the Phoenix people's Elder Hong. At this moment, Elder Hong's complexion was very unsightly. The expression on his face was that of forcefully suppressing his anger. Xiao Hei's mouth was really too cheap. She scolded him non-stop like a cannonball. Elder Hong's face turned black from her scolding. If it were not for the fact that Elder Hong wanted to protect Feng Buming's spirit, he would have rushed up to give this talkative spirit a good beating. It was simply too despicable, and he could not stand it any longer. Now that you're not talking, you must be afraid of your Grandpa Long. Since you're afraid, why don't you get your ass over here and kowtow to your Grandpa Long and apologize? Serve me tea and water and kneel down to beg for mercy. Xiao Hei was very smug. Seeing that Elder Hong did not move, this fellow became more and more insatiable. He directly wanted Elder Hong to get his ass over here and apologize like a grandson. This made Elder Hong so angry that his face turned green and white. Xiao Hei, come back, Zhuoan said. Xiao Hei glanced at Zhuoan and hesitated for a moment. Then, she said ruthlessly to Elder Hong, old bastard, today I will give face to Zhuoan and spare your worthless life. You should thank Zhuoan for calling me back. Otherwise, today I would have stripped you of all your fur and let you die in an undignified manner. After Xiao Hei finished speaking, she turned into a ray of light and returned to Zhuoan's side. Zhuoan stood on the blood-sobbing platform and looked at Elder Hong, who was protecting Feng Buming's spiritual soul. He said sarcastically, Elder Hong, what do you mean by this? I remember the rules of the blood-sobbing platform. As long as one is on the blood-sobbing platform, outsiders are not allowed to interfere until one side wins and loses. Elder Hong's eyes flashed. He took out a purple soul cultivation pot from his spiritual ring and carefully put Feng Buming's spiritual soul into it. Then, he stared coldly at Zhuoan. Zhuoan did not stop Elder Hong. Instead, he looked coldly at Elder Hong. The many foreign clan members around the blood-sobbing platform also recovered from their daze. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They originally thought that Feng Buming would have a fierce battle with Zhuoan after using the 10th level of the divine techniques of the Phoenix. However, Zhuoan only used one move to see through Feng Buming's movement technique. With a spurt of blood, he killed him. If Elder Hong had not intervened, Feng Buming's spiritual soul would have been destroyed and he would have died completely. Zhuoan, you have indeed won this battle. However, your sins cannot be reduced because of this. You killed the Phoenix Blood City's law enforcement team and the 3 great commanders of the Phoenix Blood City. You even trespassed into the Sacred Martin clan and killed the clan leader of the Sacred Martin clan, Jing Cai. Now, you have seriously injured the heaven's pride of the Phoenix people. Do you know your sins? Elder Hong put his hands behind his back and stared at Zhuoan with bright eyes. The murderous intent in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. The aura on his body continued to rise and crush Zhuoan. As soon as Elder Hong said this, many foreign clan members around the blood-sobbing platform looked at him with disdain. They also knew that Elder Hong was going back on his words. One must know that Feng Buming had previously said that as long as Zhuoan could defeat him on the blood-sobbing platform, he would not pursue the matter. Now that Zhuoan had defeated Feng Buming, not only did Elder Hong stop Zhuoan, but he also wanted to punish Zhuoan for his crimes. This was simply too much. However, most of the foreign races were already used to the domineering behavior of the Phoenix clan, so they didn't feel much about it. At most, they just showed pity for Zhuoan. Hee. What are the rules that you set in the Phoenix Blood City? The first time the young clan leader of the Fire Elephant clan was tied, you have already gone back on your word. Today, you Phoenix people, Feng Buming, want to go back on your words in front of me again. Zhuoan's mouth was full of a sneer. He stomped his right foot and a terrifying power quickly spread from the bottom of his foot. The blood-weeping platform beneath his feet was rapidly expanding and disintegrating into countless fine powder. What's the use of setting up this blood-sobbing platform in Phoenix Blood City? Why don't you just destroy it and end it once and for all? Zhuoan stood in the middle of the ruins of the blood-sobbing platform. His voice was loud and clear like a great bell that spread throughout the entire Phoenix Blood City. Instantly, The foreign clan members scattered around the Phoenix Blood City heard this loud and clear voice and gathered in this direction. Elder Hong's gaze was very cold. He floated in the air and looked down at Zhuowen from above. He only said indifferently, "Destroying the blood-sobbing platform is an additional crime. Zhuowen, you have committed a grave sin today. You should atone for your crimes with your death. You want Zhuowen to die to atone for his crimes? Who do you think you are, old bastard? Don't think that just because you are some Phoenix people, you are high and mighty. In this Dragon Lord's eyes, you are just an old fart. You are no different from those turkeys." "What Phoenix people?" Xiao Hei sat on the sword hilt and said disdainfully. Elder Hong's gaze was cold as he stared coldly at Xiao Hei, who was on the Thunderfire sword. He coldly snorted and said, "In Phoenix Blood City, the Phoenix people are the rules. I am an elder of the Phoenix people. Now, my words are the rules. Since you two foreign clans didn't follow the rules of Phoenix Blood City, then you should receive the corresponding punishment. Today, you will stay here." Chapter 3255. Soul-nourishing pot bang bang bang. Old Hong unleashed all of his aura. In an instant, a terrifying heatwave spread out from the ruins of the blood-weeping platform. The outsiders surrounding the blood-weeping platform all let out muffled groans as they retreated, looking at Elder Hong in shock. There were even some who were directly injured by the heatwave produced by the aura and spat out blood. He's actually at the middle stage of the heaven-piercing master realm. Wasn't Old Hong of the Phoenix people rumored to be at the early stage of the heaven-piercing master realm? What's going on? He must have broken through. As expected of the Phoenix people. His bloodline power is so strong. Old Hong shouldn't have broken through for long, but his aura is far stronger than that of an ordinary middle-stage heaven-piercing master. Yuefu, who had been standing not too far away from the platform, was now far away. Her beautiful eyes flashed. After Old Hong unleashed such a terrifying aura, the uneasiness in her eyes was gradually suppressed. In her opinion, with Old Hong's powerful cultivation and aura, he should be able to completely eliminate Zhuowen. But as she looked at Zhuowen, her gaze became more and more complicated. It could be said that she had seen Zhuowen's entire journey. She had watched as Zhuowen defeated anyone she favored. When Yuefu looked at the figure standing upright like a spear, an indescribable feeling appeared in her mind. She had a feeling that this kid might once again exceed her expectations in this battle. What am I thinking? Old Hong is a middle-stage heaven-piercing master, and he has the powerful Phoenix bloodline. He's so strong that he can eliminate Zhuowen. Yuefu shook her head, throwing away such strange thoughts and laughing at herself. How could Old Hong not be a match for Zhuowen? She was thinking too much. Old Hong stood high above. As he listened to the exclamations around him, a trace of self-satisfaction appeared in his eyes. He had just broken through to the middle stage of the heaven-piercing master realm and had long wanted to show off. He wanted to let others know that he, Old Hong, had broken through and his strength had risen to another level. And Zhuowen was the stepping stone for him to display his new strength. "Zhuowen, you've seen my strength. Just obediently give up and let yourself be captured. Otherwise, you'll die a very painful death." "It won't be easy," Old Hong said indifferently. "Hehe, idiot." Zhuowen didn't intend to talk nonsense with Old Hong. He stomped his right foot, and the three divine swords transformed into three rainbow-colored lights that shot explosively towards Old Hong. "Humph, you're courting death." Old Hong snorted coldly. His right foot stepped into the air, and the surrounding aura became even more terrifying, forming a storm with a terrifying tearing force. Bang bang bang. Elder Hong quickly threw out 3 punches. The sacrificial death sword and the blood immortal sword were sent flying. Only the Thunderfire sword barely blocked Elder Hong's attack. "This old bastard doesn't look like much, but I didn't expect him to be so strong. I've really underestimated this old fart." Xiao Hei shouted in surprise. Old Hong's eyes were cold as he suddenly shouted. Terrifying flames burst out from his body. His strength suddenly increased by several times. Blackie let out a strange cry as he was blasted back repeatedly by Elder Hong's punch. Zhuoan immediately put the sacrificial death sword and the blood immortal sword into the macro world the moment they were forced back. The sacrificial death sword and the blood immortal sword were only at the peak of the creation level. There was a huge gap between them and Old Hong. The punch just now had almost smashed them. Naturally, Zhuoan wouldn't let these two divine swords fight again. After Old Hong forced the Thunder Fire sword back, he took a step forward and threw a punch at Zhuoan's face. His eyes were full of terrifying killing intent. Zhuoan's eyes were calm. The purple river floated from the void and surrounded him. His body flickered in the air like a ghost and dodged Old Hong's attack. Zhuoan directly activated the Torch Dragon's eyes. The moment he passed by Elder Hong, he instantly caught Elder Hong's flaw and punched him mercilessly. He didn't hold back in this punch. He broke out all the power of the Pangu sacred body and hit Old Hong's waist and abdomen. But soon, Zhuoan found that something was wrong because he saw a strange smile on Old Hong's face. Boom! Zhuoan was shocked to find that Old Hong, who had passed by him, suddenly exploded. Countless waves of fire, like the bloody mouth of a giant python, rushed toward Zhuoan to devour him. All of this happened so suddenly that Zhuoan was directly engulfed by the waves of fire and disappeared. Hundreds of meters away from the waves of fire, an insignificant spark flickered. Immediately, the spark exploded and a figure emerged from it. This figure was Old Hong. This was Old Hong's unique talent, called the Fire Explosion Substitute. He could use the fire energy that was compressed in his body to form a substitute that looked exactly like him, while he himself would turn into an insignificant spark. However, the substitute would explode the moment it collided with the enemy. At that time, he would have retreated hundreds of meters away. Old Hong's explosion energy was very strange. It didn't explode outwards. Instead, it repeatedly contracted and expanded, switching back and forth between these two states. Old Hong stared coldly at the exploding energy mass. His face was slightly pale, and his aura was much weaker than before. This was his desperate move. Its power was so great that it could kill an ordinary middle-stage master of heaven. No matter how strong Zhuoan was, could he be stronger than a middle-stage master of heaven? He believed that Zhuoan would die without a doubt under this attack. But soon, Old Hong found that something was wrong. He found that the explosion energy floating in the air, which was repeatedly expanding and contracting, was gradually overflowing with a pitch-black mist. This pitch-black mist broke through the explosion energy and directly enveloped it. Then, Old Hong found that the explosion energy was constantly being compressed and becoming smaller. The destructive aura was also gradually weakening. What the hell is going on? Old Hong frowned and had an ominous feeling. Rumble. Suddenly, a muffled sound came from the explosion energy mass. Then, 4 black figures drilled out. These 4 black figures were too fast. By the time Old Hong reacted, they were already in front of him. Only then did he see clearly that these 4 black figures were actually 4 ferocious evil spirits. What terrified Old Hong even more was that the aura of these 4 evil spirits was so vast that it wasn't any weaker than his. In fact, one of them was even stronger than him. In other words, the 4 wraiths that had appeared out of nowhere were all mid-stage Heavenspan lords. How is this possible? Old Hong was dumbfounded. But at this moment, the 4 evil spirits' attack had already arrived. He didn't have the slightest time to think. The 4 evil spirits' attack was too terrifying. Everywhere it passed, space collapsed, time stopped, and laws shattered. Old Hong erupted with all his strength. The instant he blocked, his face flushed red. He spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed to the ground in a sorry state. At the same time, a terrifying killing intent locked onto him. Before Old Hong could react, a blood-red light cut through the air and drilled into his glabella. Blood spurted out from between Old Hong's eyebrows. Old Hong screamed as his sea of consciousness shattered. His divine soul was nearly torn apart. Ah, Zhuoan, the Phoenix people won't let you go, Old Hong screamed miserably. He waved his right hand, took out the soul-cultivating pot, and poured all the remaining energy into it. The soul-cultivating pot emitted a dazzling light, broke through the air, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 3256. Will you give me face? Zhuowen frowned as he watched the soul-cultivating pot tear through the air. He had wanted to chase after it, but the soul-cultivating pot was simply too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared from his sight. Since he could not catch up, Zhuowen gave up on chasing after the soul-cultivating pot. Instead, he waved his sleeve and retrieved the Hu Yi's godly arrow that was nailed between Elder Hong's eyebrows. At the same time, the four evil spirits came to Zhuowen's side. They lowered their heads submissively, and there was not the slightest hint of disobedience in their eyes. Zhuowen was extremely satisfied. The four evil spirits were all at the mid-sky-reaching master level. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to tame them. Therefore, he was very grateful that the Black King had helped him tame the four evil spirits. After all, the four evil spirits had been of great help to him. Zhuowen opened the second layer of the Yama's ghosts diagram that hovered above his head. A black fog spread out, sweeping up all the demons and monsters. Soon after, all of them were sucked into the Yama's ghosts diagram. The Yama's demons diagram closed, and Zhuowen put it and the Hu Yi's godly arrow into his spirit ring. He was not surprised that he could get rid of Elder Hong so quickly. After all, he had used both Hu Yi's godly arrow and the Yama's ghosts diagram, and every single one of the monsters in the second level of the Yama's ghosts diagram was a terrifying mid-level Empyrean lord, and not just any ordinary mid-level Empyrean lord. If he could not get rid of Elder Hong, who had just reached the mid-sky-reaching master level, then he would be too useless. After Zhuowen completed this series of actions, the many foreign races spectating around the blood-weeping platform were dumbfounded. They had yet to recover from the unrealistic reality of Elder Hong's death. Hiss. When the foreign races below the platform recovered from this shocking reality, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. They finally reacted. They realized that everything that had happened before their eyes was real. In other words, Elder Hong had really fallen. Yuelf's face was pale, her delicate body trembling, but she did not lose her composure. The moment she came back to her senses, Yuelfu waved her hand and summoned a flying divine artifact. She stepped onto it, turned into a stream of light, and disappeared on the spot. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was faster than her. The Thunderfire sword lashed out and slashed at the flying divine artifact beneath Janelf's feet. Intense sword light flashed as the flying divine artifact was destroyed. Yuelf groaned as she fell from the sky and landed on the ground in a sorry state. "Miss Wolf, where are you going?" Zhuowen's cold voice sounded. His eyes flashing with cold light landed not far away from Yuefu. As for the other races near where Yuel had landed, they all consciously distanced themselves from her. Zhuowen was too terrifying. He was someone who dared to kill the Phoenix people, Fongbumming, and Elder Hong. They could not afford to offend him. However, the other races also knew that Zhuowen had killed Elder Hong of the Phoenix people. This would thoroughly enrage the Phoenix people. Soon, the Phoenix people would send a large number of troops to Phoenix Blood City. Zhuowen would definitely die. At this moment, Zhuowen was a powerful trapped beast in their eyes. They did not dare to provoke such a lunatic. This guy might do something crazy. Yuelf's delicate body trembled slightly. She stood up and forced herself to be calm. "Zhuowen, what do you mean by this? Even if you like me, you can't force me to stay. You won't be able to keep my heart if you do this. If you really like me, then you should respect my choice. I'm not feeling well, so I need to return to the sacred Martin tribe." Zhuowen looked coldly at Yuelf. The latter was about to say something, but she suddenly stopped. Her delicate body trembled even more, and her heart was filled with apprehension. She realized that Zhuowen's gaze was very strange. It no longer had the adoration and passion from before. This made Yuelf feel a sense of danger. "And you guys? Did I say you could leave?" Zhuowen did not pay any attention to the frightened Yuefu. Instead, he slowly turned around and looked at the cavalrymen brought by the Phoenix clan. They were about to mount their large horses and leave. "Zhuowen, you have already committed a heinous crime by killing the elder of the Phoenix people. If you still want to kill us now, that will be a grave sin. When the time comes, the Phoenix people will not let you off. However, If you let us off now, we will put in a good word for you. This will also be beneficial to you. There is no need to kill us all. The leader of the cavalry standing at the front clasped his fist at Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with fear. You mean that I will definitely be afraid of the Phoenix people? Zhuowen's lips curled into a mocking smile. He really did not care about the Phoenix people. His purpose in entering the primitive heaven domain was to cause havoc among the Phoenix people and rescue Mu Chunxue. Since he was here to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Phoenix people, what was there to be afraid of? The leader of the cavalry was calm and said, even if you are not afraid of the Phoenix people, you have to consider the Devouring clan. The Phoenix people have already investigated your background. You are a member of the Devouring clan. You are not afraid, but it does not mean that the clan behind you is not. Moreover, it is one thing if you are not afraid of the Phoenix people, but it is another matter if you can fight against the Phoenix people alone. I know that you are a smart person and know what to do. Letting us go is definitely the wisest choice. Unfortunately, before the leader of the cavalry could finish his words, a sword light flashed in front of him and his head flew up. Blood splattered everywhere and his head fell heavily on the ground. Don't you know how annoying you are? If you want to run, just run. Why do you have to make it sound so dignified? What a boring guy. The thunder fire sword flashed. Xiao He looked at the leader of the cavalry with disdain and mocked him. Kid, I am not in a good mood with these guys. Can I vent my anger on them? Xiao He sat on the hilt of his sword and looked at Zhuowen as if he was asking for Zhuowen's opinion. Do as you wish. As long as you don't let them escape Phoenix Blood City, you can do whatever you want. Zhuowen nodded and no longer paid attention to the cavalry. He knew that with Xiao He's strength, it was more than enough to deal with this cavalry. Zhuowen slowly walked towards Yuefu. The latter watched as Zhuowen came closer and closer. Her face was as pale as snow and her delicate body trembled even more. She did not know how Zhuowen would treat her. When Zhuowen arrived in front of Yuefu, the cavalry of the Phoenix people began to scream miserably. Zhuowen knew that Xiao He was venting. He did not care about this. He had never been soft-hearted towards his enemies. Miss Yuefu, I have something to ask you. I wonder if you would do me the honor of coming to the Bloodshed Tea House with me? To Yuefu's surprise, Zhuowen did not use violence against her nor did he insult her. Instead, he gracefully invited her to the Bloodshed Tea House. Chapter 3257. Phoenix Blood Pool. When Zhuowen arrived at the Green Blood Tea House, Hu Mai, who was in charge of the Green Blood Tea House, hurried forward to greet them. However, Zhuowen could see that Hu Mai was looking at him with eyes full of reverence. He knew that Hu Mai should already know what happened at the Weeping Blood platform. After greeting Hu Mai and asking her to arrange a good room for them, Zhuowen led Yuefu straight to the room. Siku had already returned to the Green Blood Tea House after Zhuowen won the Weeping Blood platform. Moreover, Zhuowen wasn't worried about Siku. After all, the latter was a descendant of the Shadow Clan and could imitate the aura of other clans. Even if he died at the Weeping Blood platform, nothing would happen to him. At most, he could just change his identity and slip out of Phoenix Blood City. After returning to the room, Siku deliberately avoided him. In the large hall, Zhuowen and Yuefu sat opposite each other. Yuefu seemed a little uneasy. Her beautiful eyes flickered and she didn't dare to look at Zhuowen. Miss Yuefu, you've tried to harm me time and time again. Moreover, you've exposed me time and time again. Logically speaking, I should have killed you with a single slap. Zhuowen's voice was calm, but his words made Yuefu's heart twitch fiercely and her beautiful face turn pale. She wanted to explain, but Zhuowen's cold gaze frightened her to the point she was speechless. If that's the case, why didn't you just kill me before? Why did you want me to follow you back to the Green Blood Tea House? Yuefu said with a self-deprecating smile. She already knew that Zhuowen had always been using her. Back then, he had only pretended to be her suitor. I have some important questions to ask you. If your answers satisfy me, I can consider letting you live. But only this time. If you dare go against me again, then I'll personally kill you. Zhuowen spoke with a gloomy and cold gaze. No, I definitely wouldn't dare. Lord Shuo, ask away. As long as I know, I will tell you everything. Yuefu immediately became spirited when she saw that Zhuoan was planning to let her go. She couldn't wait to tell him everything she knew. She even changed the way she addressed him to Lord Zhuoan. You claim to be Feng Buming's woman, so you should have a good relationship with him. You should also know the Phoenix people's situation, Zhuoan said. Yuefu's eyes flashed with light. She nodded. She nodded and said, I've been with Feng Buming for a long time. I've been invited by Feng Buming many times. I have been invited to meet him many Phoenix people. If Lord Shuo wants to ask about the Phoenix clan, you've found the right person. Then tell me, other than the 3 clan elders, who else are the main experts of the Phoenix clan? Zhuo Wen asked. He knew very well that the Phoenix people were, after all, one of the top 10 races. It was impossible for them to only have 3 divine masters. The Phoenix people have more than 10 divine masters. The most representative of them are the 3 divine masters and the 2 divine masters of Xuanhua. Among them, the 2 divine masters of Xuanhua are extremely powerful. It is said that even Grand Elder Mu Yu is extremely wary of them, said Yuefu. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He didn't expect the Phoenix people to have so many experts. There were actually more than 10 divine masters of Xuanhua. What he was more concerned about was that the 2 divine masters of Xuanhua that Yuefu mentioned were actually at the same level as the Grand Elder. Zhuowen had met Grand Elder Mu Yu before. Mu Yu had left a deep impression on him when he was in the Star Wars. Although Mu Yu's cultivation was at the middle divine master stage, he was at the peak of the middle divine master stage. He was far stronger than the average middle divine master stage expert. He was also much stronger than the 2 divine masters, who had just reached the middle divine master stage. But now, the 2 divine masters of Xuanhua that Yuefu mentioned were actually at the same level as Mu Yu. This was a little tricky. Yuefu's beautiful eyes flickered. She hesitated for a moment before saying, Lord Shuo, the Grand Elder and the 3rd Elder left the primitive heaven realm some time ago. They are no longer with the Phoenix people. Moreover, the 2 divine masters of the Phoenix people were killed by you. The only true experts left are the 2 divine masters of Xuanhua. Hey! The Grand Elder and the 3rd Elder left the Phoenix people? Do you know why they left the primitive heaven realm? Zhuowen asked in surprise. Yuefu shook her head and said, I don't know about this either. I only heard about it from Feng Buming. But Feng Buming didn't tell me the specific reason. Zhuowen nodded and sighed softly in his heart. Without the Grand Elder and the 3rd Elder among the Phoenix people, the pressure on him when he entered the Phoenix people this time was much less. Other than them, are there no other experts among the Phoenix people? Zhuowen continued to ask. Yuefu said in a low voice, actually, the Phoenix people have a very mysterious Phoenix master. Her whereabouts are unpredictable. It is said that she is basically not among the Phoenix people. This is because when the Phoenix people were fighting in the north and south, this Phoenix master never appeared. There is an even stronger Phoenix master. Zhuowen frowned slightly. The Phoenix people were really strong. The 2 divine masters of Xuanhua and the 3 divine masters were already terrifying enough. Above them, there was an even stronger Phoenix master. This time, he had to be more careful when he entered the Phoenix people. If he provoked the Phoenix master, then the joke would be too big. Yuefu saw that Zhuowen was deep in thought, so she tactfully shut her mouth. After a long time, Zhuowen finally continued to ask, the Phoenix people's 2nd elder, Elder Hong, I remember that he died in the human race's star cannons during the Star Wars. This matter caused a huge sensation in the primitive heaven realm at that time. Why is that 2nd elder still perfectly fine? Zhuo Wen finally directed his question to the 2nd elder. When he had first met Elder Hong, his heart had been filled with doubts. However, he couldn't ask Elder Hong about this. After all, they were enemies. Elder Hong definitely wouldn't answer him. Yuefu's beautiful eyes looked strange as she said, Lord Shuo, don't you know that there is a Phoenix blood pool among the Phoenix people? Phoenix blood pool? What is that? Zhuowen asked in confusion. The so-called phoenix blood pool is said to be formed from a drop of blood essence left behind by the phoenix, the ancestor of the phoenix people. This phoenix blood pool has the powerful ability to nourish the soul. Basically, all important figures among the phoenix people will leave a trace of their soul in the phoenix blood pool. When one of them unfortunately perishes, the phoenix clan will extract that strand of soul from the phoenix blood pool and begin to use the phoenix blood pool to restore that person's soul. After the soul is restored, the phoenix people will spend countless precious materials to forge a powerful body for the owner of the soul, allowing their cultivation to recover to the peak in a short period of time. The second elder relied on this method to revive from the phoenix blood pool. However, the price of using the phoenix blood pool to restore the soul is too high. Every time the soul is restored, a lot of the phoenix blood pool's energy will be consumed. And this phoenix blood pool only has that one pool of water, which is extremely precious. If it isn't an important figure, the phoenix people generally won't waste the phoenix blood pool to revive their clansmen. Zhuowen's eyes showed surprise. He didn't expect the phoenix people to have such a miraculous phoenix blood pool. And this method was similar to the principle of his doppelganger. His doppelganger had the powerful recovery ability of the Gomang Gu. As long as there was a trace of soul, with sufficient energy, his soul and body could be restored. Chapter 3258. Beat them at their own game. Zhuowen then asked Yuefu a few more questions about the phoenix people. What surprised him was that Yuefu had a deep understanding of the phoenix people and gave him satisfactory answers. After asking, Zhuowen fell into deep thought, while Yuefu looked at Zhuowen worriedly. She was afraid that her answers would provoke Zhuowen into killing her. After all, she was now the meat on the chopping block, while Zhuowen was the knife. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at Yuefu, saying, "Miss Yuefu, you can leave now. But I have to warn you. After leaving Phoenix Blood City, scram back to the Sacred Martin clan. If you have other thoughts, go and inform the Phoenix people and let me know. Then you can forget about living." Yuefu stood up and hurriedly bowed to Zhuowen, her beautiful eyes filled with gratitude. Master Zhuo, after Feng Bumming returns to the Phoenix people, he will definitely inform the two mystical flame protectors about what happened here. When the time comes, the Phoenix people will definitely send troops to encircle and annihilate you. I think it's best for you to leave the Phoenix people's territory now, Yuefu suddenly said. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, "You don't have to worry about this. I still have some matters to attend to in Phoenix Blood City and will need to stay for some time. Moreover, the Phoenix people are quite a distance away from Phoenix Blood City. If the Phoenix Blood City army invades, they won't be able to reach here so quickly." Yuefu's beautiful eyes flickered and she bid farewell to Zhuowen and left the Green Blood Tea House. "Master Zhuo, you're letting Yuefu go just like that? That woman is very scheming. Once she leaves Phoenix Blood City, she will definitely sell you out." Siku walked out from another room and looked at Zhuowen with a worried expression. Zhuowen shook his head slightly and said indifferently, "You're right. After Yuefu leaves Phoenix Blood City, she will immediately spread the news that I might still be in Phoenix Blood City." "Then why did you?" Siku didn't understand. "Because I did it on purpose. I needed to let the Phoenix people know that I, Zhuowen, have not left Phoenix Blood City. Let them think that I, Zhuowen, am so arrogant, so fearless. Only in this way would the Phoenix people send most of their experts to Phoenix Blood City. Even the two mystical flame protectors guarding the Phoenix people would all come. At that time, the Phoenix people will become empty. Wouldn't it be easier for you to infiltrate the Phoenix people?" Zhuowen's voice was flat, but his eyes flashed with wisdom. Siku slapped his forehead and hurriedly gave Zhuowen a thumbs up, saying, "Master Zhuo, you're really smart. Look at this blockhead of mine, I didn't think of this, really. Now, all we need to do is wait. However, before the Phoenix people come, I will set up the 12 Divine Fiends formation in a 5-kilometer radius around the Green Blood Tea House," Zhuowen said. "What? 12 Divine Fiends formation? Master Zhuo, I remember that this 12 Divine Fiends formation is a heaven-piercing formation, right? You're saying that you will set up the 12 Divine Fiends formation alone?" Sai-ku licked his lips. He felt that what he had just heard was so surreal. Although he knew that Zhuowen knew a little about Araidao, he thought that Zhuowen's Araidao skills were at most at the creation realm. But now, Zhuowen actually said that he was going to set up a heaven-piercing formation. Could it be that Zhuowen was actually a heaven-piercing formation master? At this thought, Sai-ku's eyes lit up. He knew very well how terrifying a heaven-piercing formation master was in the primitive celestial realm. If Zhuowen was really a heaven-piercing formation master, then he would really be rich if he followed Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not care about Sai-ku's complicated thoughts. Instead, he left the Green Blood Tea House. After informing Hu Mai, he began to set up the 12 Divine Fiends formation around the Green Blood Tea House. After all, the 12 Divine Fiends formation was a heaven-piercing formation. It would take a lot of time and effort to set it up completely. Zhuowen was not sure when the Phoenix people would send an army over. Therefore, he planned to complete the 12 Divine Fiends formation as soon as possible. After Yuefu left Phoenix Blood City, she immediately took out her flying divine weapon and flew into the sky. However, she was not heading towards the sacred Marten tribe. Instead, she was heading towards the Phoenix people. At the same time, she took out her communication jade talisman and sent the specific situation of Phoenix Blood City, as well as Zhuowen's words, to the two Xuanhua Guardians. Although she was not familiar with the two Xuanhua Guardians, she knew how to contact the two Xuanhua Guardians from Fengbumming's information. At this moment, this contact method came in handy. Among the Phoenix people, in the Phoenix Cry Palace, the two Xuanhua Guardians paced back and forth with ugly expressions. Soon, Fengbumming staggered out from the depths of the Phoenix Cry Palace. If not for the two beautiful maids supporting him, Fengbumming might have fallen to the ground. "This body is so weak," Fengbumming said unhappily. The two Xuanhua Guardians frowned. Among them, the Black Guardian said in a deep voice, "Fengbumming, you want to condense a new body in a short period of time. Naturally, it won't be too good. In the later stage, you can refine this body again until you get used to it. Now, you should tell me, what happened to you in Phoenix Blood City? Your soul was thrown into the soul cultivating pot and escaped back to the Phoenix people. And where is Elder Hong now?" Fengbumming clenched his fists tightly. If not for the fact that he was powerless now, he would have punched the ground to vent the anger in his heart. Elder Hong should have died. "He died in the hands of Zhuowen," Fengbumming roared in a low voice. "What? How is this possible?" The two Xuanhua Guardians were shocked. They knew that Fengbumming and Elder Hong had gone to Phoenix Blood City to deal with Zhuowen. In their opinion, Fengbumming and Elder Hong were more than enough to kill Zhuowen. Therefore, they were not worried about them at all. But now, Fengbumming's body had collapsed and only his soul had escaped. What was even more ridiculous was that Elder Hong had died. This was too unbelievable. Could it be that Zhuowen was really that powerful? Fengbumming, what happened? You are not Zhuowen's match. Tell us about what happened in Phoenix Blood City. Xuanhua Guardian's face was gloomy as he asked Fengbumming. Fengbumming nodded his head and recounted everything that had happened in Phoenix Blood City. After the two Xuanhua Guardians heard this, they fell silent. If what Fengbumming said was true, then this Zhuowen was really not simple. This child was at least at the peak of the middle stage of the Tongtian Master Realm. He could not be underestimated. Two Guardians, Elder Hong died because of me. We should go to the Phoenix Blood Pool and take out Elder Hong's soul to reconstruct his body, Fengbumming said. He Xian flatly refused and said, Fengbumming, the Phoenix Blood Pool is a consumable item. Every time the soul is revived, the Phoenix Blood Essence energy in it will be reduced by a little. Elder Hong has already used the Phoenix Blood Pool once. He is no longer qualified to use it again. Otherwise, it would be unfair to us. After all, we have never used it once. If we die in the future, we will have to rely on the Phoenix Blood Pool. Fengbumming's eyes widened, but he quickly became dispirited. He Xian was right. The Phoenix Blood Pool could only be used once. Elder Hong had just used it not long ago and wanted to use it again. This was indeed against the rules. Chapter 3259. Preparation and disguise. Are you sure you want to give your chance to Elder Hong? He Xian looked at Feng Bumming in surprise. Yes, Elder Hong died in order to save me. This time, it's because of me, so I'm willing to give my chance to Elder Hong, Feng Bumming said in a deep voice. He Xian nodded and said, if that's the case, then Elder Hong will have a chance to revive his soul again, but there's still a long way to go. Now, our first task is to find a way to get rid of Zhuoan, that malignant tumor. At the mention of Zhuoan, Feng Bumming's eyes revealed a venomous look and said, this kid must be eliminated. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble. At this moment, the communication jade talismans at the waists of He Xian and Shuehua lit up. Both of them were puzzled because the communication jade talisman showed an unfamiliar contact number. It's Yuefu's number. Guardians, can you see what Yuefu sent? Feng Bumming said with a calm gaze. Yuefu said that Zhuoan is still in Phoenix Blood City. According to Zhuoan, Zhuoan plans to stay in Phoenix Blood City for a while. If this is true, then Zhuoan is too arrogant. He Xian flipped through the contents of the communication jade talisman. His face was terrifyingly gloomy and his voice was filled with anger. He doesn't put us Phoenix people in his eyes at all. Not only did he not escape after killing our Phoenix people, he even plans to stay in Phoenix Blood City. This kid is too arrogant, Shuehua said in an unfriendly tone. Since Zhuoan is so arrogant, then we'll let him know the strength of our Phoenix people. We'll let him experience despair once. Guardians, Bumming needs your help. Feng Bumming cupped his fists at the two guardians and said in a deep voice. The two guardians naturally knew what Feng Bumming meant. They cupped their fists at Feng Bumming and said in a deep voice, this matter is a disgrace to the entire Phoenix people. We'll naturally help you, Bumming. Good. The two of you, bring 7 Skyreach experts and follow me to Phoenix Blood City. If we don't kill that Zhuoan, where will the face of the Phoenix people go? Feng Bumming said with killing intent in his eyes. 3 days later, Yuefu arrived at the Phoenix people on a flying divine artifact and was taken to the Phoenix Cry Palace by the Phoenix people. At this moment, outside the Phoenix Cry Palace, Feng Bumming stood with his hands behind his back. The two guardians of Xuanhua stood behind him. Other than that, there were also 7 powerhouses of the Phoenix clan with powerful auras who stood behind him respectfully. The auras of these 7 Phoenix people were too strong, and Yuefu could feel her heart palpitating. She knew that these 7 were most likely sky-piercing experts. Erfu, come here, Feng Bumming said with a smile. Yuefu obediently approached Feng Bumming. Just as she was about to act coquettishly, Feng Bumming said coldly, now I'll ask and you'll answer. You're not allowed to speak without my permission. Looking at Feng Bumming's cold gaze, Yuela's heart trembled. Her beautiful eyes were filled with grievance, and she could only nod in agreement. Good. How did you escape from Phoenix Blood City? After that Zhuoan killed Elder Hong, he shouldn't have let you go so easily, right? Feng Bumming asked. Yuefu's beautiful eyes flickered as she said, Bumming, you also know that Zhuoan is actually one of my pursuers. I told him that I wanted to return to your side. Although he was unwilling, he didn't want me to be angry, so he let me go in the end. Feng Bumming narrowed his eyes and continued to ask without batting an eyelid, then the message you sent earlier said that Zhuoan really intends to stay in Phoenix Blood City for a period of time? If you're lying to me, then don't blame me for not caring about our old friendship. Tears flashed in Yuefu's beautiful eyes, and the grievance on her beautiful face intensified, but she still said, Bumming, I heard it from Zhuoan with my own ears. If you think that I brought false news, then forget it. I'd better leave this place. Anyway, you don't believe me. Feng Bumming stopped Yuefu, and a smile finally appeared on his face as he said, Yuefu, how can I not believe you? After all, this is an important matter. If the news is really unreliable, then wouldn't our trip be in vain? After coaxing Yuefu again, Feng Bumming instructed the 2 Xianhua protectors to set off for Phoenix Blood City. At the same time that Feng Bumming and the others set off, near the Bloodshed Tea House, Zhuoan laid down the last array foundation. He let out a light sigh and muttered to himself, it's finally set up. It really wasn't easy to set up this 12 divine fiends formation. When Zhuoan re-entered the bloodshed tea house, Sai Ku was already waiting for Zhuoan inside. Miss Hu Mai, the experts of the Phoenix people will soon come to Phoenix Blood City. At that time, they will definitely attack the bloodshed tea house. You'd better leave the bloodshed tea house. Zhuoan took out a spiritual ring and handed it to Hu Mai, saying, the cultivation resources inside are enough for you to cultivate to the creation realm. You can find a place to cultivate in seclusion. When you're strong enough, you can come out to train. Hu Mai took the spiritual ring and looked inside. Her beautiful eyes widened. The heavenly path origin crystals and high-grade divine pills were everywhere. The cultivation resources inside were simply too abundant. This was the first time she had seen something like this. Miss Hu Mai, you don't have to refuse. This is a token of my sincerity. Moreover, you've helped me a lot. I don't like to owe others favors. If you don't accept it, I won't feel at ease, Zhuoan said solemnly. Hu Mai hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she still accepted Zhuoan's gift. Brother Zhuo, I took advantage of you this time. If we have the chance to meet again in the future, Hu Mai will definitely repay today's kindness. With that, Hu Mai left the bloodshed tea house with Hu Ling. After Hu Mai left, the waiters in the bloodshed tea house were basically all dismissed by Zhuoan. In fact, after Zhuoan killed Elder Hong and stayed in the bloodshed tea house, most of the waiters in the tea house had left. There was no need for Zhuoan to deliberately dismiss them. Now, the bloodshed tea house was empty. Apart from Zhuoan and Siku, there was no one else. With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuoan summoned his human true body. Brother Siku, this is my human doppelganger. He looks almost the same as me, but the human aura on him is too obvious. You're from the Shadow Clan and are skilled in concealment. I wonder if you have a way to conceal your human aura? Zhuoan pointed at his human true body and looked at Siku. Siku glanced at his human true body in surprise, but he didn't suspect anything. He nodded and said, I do have a secret technique that can temporarily change your human doppelganger's aura. However, it can only be maintained for 3 days. 3 days is enough, Zhuoan said. Siku nodded and came in front of his human true body. He formed a seal with both hands. Immediately, a black gas spread out and enveloped his human true body. Chapter 3260. Siege. After the aura of the main body was completely concealed, the main body glanced at the doppelganger and rushed out of the green blood tea house, leaping to the top of the tea house. The main body took out a praying mat and sat on the top of the tea house. His loud voice resounded, Today, I, Zhuoan, will be the overseer of Phoenix Blood City. In the future, I, Zhuoan, will be the rule. If anyone is dissatisfied, then come to the green blood tea house to find me. I, Zhuoan, will accompany you to the end. When the main body said this, all the foreign races in Phoenix Blood City raised their heads and looked at Zhuoan's figure on the top of the green blood tea house. Their eyes were filled with anger. This Zhuoan was too arrogant. He actually dared to say that he would be the rule in the future. But anger was anger. With Zhuoan's strength, they did not dare to say anything. While all the foreign races in Phoenix Blood City were focused on the main body on the top of the tea house, Zhuoan's doppelganger and Siku had already quietly left through the back door of the green blood tea house. Through a secret passage, they left Phoenix Blood City. After the main body felt that the doppelganger had left, it no longer attracted hatred and returned to the green blood tea house. The moment Zhuoan's doppelganger and Siku left Phoenix Blood City, they took out a flying divine tool and flew towards the Phoenix people's camp. However, Siku was very smart. The route he chose to go to the Phoenix people was not an ordinary one. Instead, it was a more remote and detoured route. The purpose of doing this was naturally to avoid encountering the experts of the Phoenix people. Feng Bumming's group was extremely fast. In 2.5 days, they arrived at Phoenix Blood City. The moment they entered Phoenix Blood City, there were foreign races who immediately complained to them that Zhuoan was too arrogant. Previously, he actually dared to say such bold words on the top of the green blood tea house. This Zhuoan is really arrogant. Does he really think he is a big shot? He actually dares to say that he is the rule of Phoenix Blood City. After the two Black Flame Protectors heard the foreign race's complaint, their eyes were filled with killing intent. In their hearts, they had already sentenced Zhuowen to death. Go. Let's go to the Jasper Blood Tea House. There's been no movement from the Jasper Blood Mulberry. I'm afraid that Zhuowen has already dealt with it. Today, we'll tear down the Jasper Blood Tea House and destroy that Zhuowen. Feng Buming led the two guardians of Xuanhua and the others straight to the Emerald Blood Tea House. And inside Phoenix Blood City, the foreign races who received the news all followed Feng Buming and the others. Many of the foreign races were secretly shocked when they saw Feng Buming's lineup. This time, the Phoenix people were truly enraged. Not only did they send great experts like the Xuanhua Protectors, but they also sent 7 experts who were at the early stage of the sky-piercing realm. Such a lineup could easily kill a mid-Empyrean lord, and even a late Empyrean lord would be in an extremely difficult situation if surrounded by such a lineup. Then Zhuowen is done for. This time, the Phoenix people are serious. Hehe, that Zhuowen really thinks he's some big shot. Does he think he's so great just because he killed the 3 commanders and 2 clan elders of Phoenix Blood City? This is simply a fool's dream. Now that the real experts of the Phoenix people are here, it's impossible for him to survive. In Phoenix Blood City, many of the foreign races who were unhappy with Zhuowen were gloating when they saw the lineup of the Phoenix people. They wanted to see if Zhuowen would kneel and beg for mercy under such a lineup, or if he would still be unyielding and arrogant to the end. Zhuowen, why aren't you coming out to accept your death? Feng Buming came to the front of the Jasper Blood Tea House with the 2 guardians of Xuanhua standing behind him. His eyes were slightly smug as he shouted in a loud voice. Yuefu, on the other hand, stood beside Feng Buming with a sneer in her beautiful eyes. She naturally believed that Zhuowen would definitely die this time. Feng Buming, you're just a loser. What right do you have to ask me to come out and accept my death? Zhuowen's leisurely voice came from the Jasper Blood Tea House. Then, the door of the Jasper Blood Tea House opened and Zhuowen, dressed in white, slowly walked out. Zhuowen looked around and found that other than the Phoenix people experts brought by Feng Buming, the rest of the foreign races in Phoenix Blood City had surrounded his Jasper Blood Tea House. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. It seemed that these foreign races in Phoenix Blood City were completely on the side of the Phoenix people. This was within Zhuowen's expectations. Although he appeared to be very strong before, he was only one person after all. Compared to the colossus of the Phoenix people, in the eyes of others, he was indeed insignificant. Everyone, as long as you're not a friend of the Phoenix people, leave now and don't interfere in the grudge between me and the Phoenix people, then I, Zhuowen, will not find trouble with you after this, and I won't hold a grudge against you. Of course, if you insist on being on the side of the Phoenix people and then go against me, I believe you will regret it very soon. Zhuowen slowly opened his mouth. His voice was very calm, but it was filled with coldness and sharpness in the calmness. Haha, what a joke. Who do you think you are, Zhuowen? And you still want to find trouble with us after this? How can you say that? Do you still have a chance after this? Now you're going to die, and you're going to die a horrible death. One of the foreign races sneered and ridiculed, causing the surrounding foreign races to laugh loudly and unscrupulously. Feng Buming looked at Zhuowen mockingly and said, Zhuowen, don't be mistaken. Phoenix Blood City was built by us Phoenix people. Who do you think you are? You still dare to say that you're the rule of Phoenix Blood City? Where did you get the face to say that? After saying that, Feng Buming clapped his hands and said, Everyone, if you can help me take down this kid today, the Phoenix people will reward you handsomely. This is my promise to you. Now, attack together with me. After Feng Buming finished speaking, the foreign races surrounding the Emerald Blood Tea House rushed towards the center of the building like a flood. Among the 2 Xuanhua guardians, the Heixian guardian led 7 experts from the Phoenix people and followed closely behind. The Xuanhua guardian stood beside Feng Buming, protecting him at all times. After all, Feng Buming was the prodigy of the Phoenix people. He was also an important candidate for this Sorcerer Song Conference. He could not let anything happen to Feng Buming again. Zhuoan stood quietly at the entrance of the tea house. He slowly took out an array flag and threw it out. Suddenly, with the emerald blood tea house as the center, a terrifying aura suddenly appeared within a 10-mile radius. This aura was too terrifying. It covered everyone's body and made them feel even more pressured. 12 huge phantoms strode over from 12 different directions at the edge of the 10-li range. The 12 shadows took a step forward and stepped right into the midst of the foreign races. Screams could be heard continuously. At this moment, 30% of the foreign races were trampled to death by the 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows. Even their souls were not spared. What? It's the 12 heavenly deities killing formation. How is this possible? Chapter 3261. Ancestral Hall. When stood quietly in front of the green blood tea house. The 12 divine beings killing formation had been activated to the most terrifying level. 12 silhouettes of magi swooshed out like raging dragons. Large groups of non-humankind beings around the tea house let out shrill screams and died one after another. Many foreign tribes knelt down and begged Zhuoan for mercy, promising that they would never go against him again. Zhuoan only laughed coldly, not paying any attention to these foreign races begging for mercy. He had said what he needed to say. Since these foreign tribes did not listen, they would have to pay the price. He Xian, who was leading 7 phoenix people towards Zhuoan, was stopped by an ancestral sorcerer shadow. I didn't expect the 12 divine fiends formation. However, the ancestral sorcerer shadow you set up is only at the early stage of the Master of Heaven. It can't stop me. He Xian's eyes were cold. His body was surrounded by pitch-black flames. The aura in He Xian's body was like a mountain, exploding and expanding continuously. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! He Xian punched the ancestral sorcerer shadow. The black flames spread to the ancestral sorcerer shadow like maggots. The ancestral sorcerer shadow kept retreating. Its huge body was burned by the black flames and was soon burned into ashes. The smile on the corners of He Xian's mouth seemed to be even more complacent. But soon, he was surprised to discover that the ancestral shaman's silhouette that had been burned to ashes had actually recovered at this moment and flashed towards him once again. At the same time, the other 11 ancestral sorcerer shadows strode over and began to besiege He Xian's team. The other foreign tribes surrounding the tea house were just a mob. Most of them were killed by the 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows. Now, the remaining few were trembling under the terrifying pressure of the formation. They were unable to display any of their battle prowess. He Xian's face was ugly. He was not afraid of the 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows. These ancestral sorcerer shadows were only at the early stage of the Master of Heaven. However, they were very difficult to deal with. After killing them, they would reassemble quickly. It was impossible to destroy them. Boom! The 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows and He Xian's team collided. Terrifying energy ripples spread out like waves. Then, the two sides were engaged in a fierce battle. However, the 12 ancestral sorcerer shadows obviously had the upper hand. The 7 phoenix people, He Xian's shadow, were each held by 1 ancestral sorcerer shadows. He Xian's shadow was sorcerer shadows. He Xian's shadow and sorcerer shadows could not be He Xian. Shui fire, Xian fire. Blood blood. Blood blood fire. Blood 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 blood. Only by killing him can this 12 overseer divine wraith formation be broken. Blood 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 shadows. Shadow blood blood shadows translation blood 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 translation shadow blood translation. Shuahua Protector hesitated for a while, but in the end, he still followed Feng Buming's order and rushed towards Zhuowen. However, the blood fire was blocked by an energy barrier when it got close to Zhuowen. Heaven Master Defense Formation? Shuahua retreated, his eyes full of shock and uncertainty. He returned to Feng Buming's side and said in a low voice, "Buming, this person should be a divine master of the heavenly crossing formation. I can't break that defensive formation in a short period of time." "What? There's a heaven master defense formation? This guy. What should we do?" Feng Buming panicked. "Buming, don't worry. We have so many experts on our side. Although we can't do anything to Zhuoan, he can't do anything to us either. Blood, 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 Shadow said. Feng Bumming heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. His brows were tightly knitted together. They could not stay in this stalemate. Zhuoan did not say a word. He re-entered the green blood tea house. He had achieved his goal this time. All that was left was to delay Feng Bumming and his group. His doppelganger and Sai Ku would sneak into the Phoenix people and successfully rescue Mu Chunxue. Then, they would be done. While Feng Bumming and the rest were trapped in the 12 divine beings killing formation, Zhuoan and Sai Ku were gradually approaching the Phoenix people's encampment. The two of them spent 3.5 days and stopped at a mountain peak. A few thousand meters in front of the mountain peak, a huge city shrouded in flames appeared in their line of sight. In the sky above the city, countless flames suddenly surged up, and actually manifested into the phantoms of fire phoenixes. These fire phoenix shadows circled above the city. The powerful aura overflowed and made people tremble in fear. Other than the 3 clan elders and blood guardians, the Phoenix people have a total of 12 experts in the early stage of Heaven Master. Among the Phoenix people, these 12 experts are called the 12 fire deities. Based on the information from your doppelganger, Feng Bumming and his group brought 7 fire deities. That is to say, there are 5 more fire deities among the Phoenix people. Sai Ku said in a low voice. Yuefu once mentioned that there is a Phoenix Master among the Phoenix people. Could the Phoenix Master be among the Phoenix people? Zhuoan was not worried about the 12 fire deities. He was only worried about the mysterious Phoenix Master. The Phoenix Master was superior to the 3 clan elders and blood guardians. His cultivation was at least at the late stage of Heaven Master or even stronger. Zhuoan knew that he was no match for such a terrifying expert. What he was most afraid of now was whether the mysterious Phoenix Master was also hiding among the Phoenix people. I don't think so. The Phoenix Master hasn't appeared for countless years. There are many rumors that the Phoenix Master went to the mysterious heaven accessing place in order to pursue a higher realm. That is the most mysterious place under the starry sky. Only the Lord of Heaven accessing place is qualified to enter, Sai Ku said with an envious look. Sai Ku, I'm counting on you now. I'll entrust the great world to you, Zhuoan said as he entered the great world. The great world turned into an insignificant speck of dust and stuck to the corner of Sai Ku's clothes. Sai Ku's eyes were solemn. His temperament was constantly changing. Soon, he looked like the Phoenix people. Even the aura on his body was exactly the same as the Phoenix people. The Phoenix people were calm and unperturbed as usual. Even the Phoenix people who were guarding the gate looked lazy. The Phoenix people had been a strong race in this area for countless years. For many years, no one had dared to trespass into the Phoenix people. Of course, they did not think that anyone would have the guts to trespass into the Phoenix people. In their opinion, that would be courting death. Therefore, when Sai Ku disguised himself as a Phoenix people and entered the city, he was let in without being questioned. It had to be said that the main city of the Phoenix people was very big. The most eye-catching thing was probably the sky-high tower that was set up in the center of the main city. The surface of the tower was burning with dark flames. The flames did not emit heat. Instead, they emitted a deathly chill. It was very strange. That's the Phoenix Purgatory, Sai Ku said in a low voice. Let's not go to the Phoenix Purgatory first. Let's go to the ancestral shrine where the Phoenix blood pool is located. Zhuoan's voice came from the great world. Sai Ku hesitated for a while and nodded. Okay. The ancestral shrine was located in the southeast corner of the main city. This ancestral shrine was actually the memorial tablets of the powerful people of the Phoenix people. Of course, these powerful people had died naturally because their lifespans had reached their limits. In addition, the Phoenix blood pool was stored in the ancestral shrine. This was considered a precious and confidential item among the Phoenix people. However, the ancestral shrine was heavily guarded. The Phoenix people had specially sent 2 fire gods to guard the ancestral shrine. Chapter 3262. Barge in Lord Shui. Are we just going in like this? Siku's forehead was covered in cold sweat, and his legs were weak. The ancestral shrine was heavily guarded, and he would definitely die if he barged in. Go in. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Zhuowen's indifferent voice rang in Siku's ears. Siku smiled bitterly in his heart, but he did not dare to disobey Zhuowen's order. He took a deep breath and walked toward the ancestral shrine. The guards outside the ancestral shrine were not weak at all. They were all Genesis stage experts. The two guards had already noticed Siku. When Siku reached the entrance, one of the guards extended his right hand and stopped him. This is the ancestral shrine. What are you doing here? Do you want to die? Get out of here. The guard scolded coldly. Siku did not say anything, nor did he leave. Instead, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from his body and pressed down on the two guards at the entrance like a mountain. Before the two guards could react, 2 rays of sword light pierced through their foreheads. They did not even have time to groan before their souls were destroyed, and they died at the entrance. The entire ancestral shrine was alarmed when the battle occurred. The experts hidden in the ancestral shrine rushed out like owls in the night. Who is it? How dare you kill the guards of the ancestral shrine? How dare you? A middle-aged man was the first to rush out of the ancestral shrine. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and he immediately saw Siku standing helplessly at the entrance. Go to hell! The middle-aged man instantly understood that Siku, who was frightened to the point of not knowing what to do, should be the culprit. Without giving Siku a chance to explain, the middle-aged man swung the long spear in his right hand towards Siku. Siku's face was pale, and he knew that he was done for. The middle-aged man's cultivation was not weak. He was in the late creation realm, and Siku's cultivation was far from fully recovered. He was only in the early creation realm, and the gap between him and the middle-aged man was obvious. However, before the middle-aged man could get close to Siku, he was blocked by 2 rays of sword light. These 2 sword lights were the Blood Fairy sword and the sacrificial death sword that had just killed the guards at the door. The middle-aged man retreated repeatedly. When he couldn't retreat any further, his eyes cracked and he couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. His entire body was pierced through by the 2 sword lights, and he couldn't be more dead. Whether it was the Blood Immortal sword or the sacrificial death sword, they were both peak creator-level divine weapons. Either divine sword could fight a peak creator-level expert, not to mention that the middle-aged man was only a late-stage creator-level expert. Siku, enter the ancestral shrine. Zhuowen's voice rang in Siku's ears. Siku had no choice but to follow Zhuowen's instructions and step into the ancestral shrine. When he saw the figures rushing out of the ancestral shrine, his heart pounded rapidly. He was so nervous that he could die. Whoosh! Whoosh! Several more figures rushed over, wanting to kill Siku. Unfortunately, they were all blocked by the Blood Immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword, and several of them were killed. Siku slowly approached the ancestral shrine, and more experts appeared in the ancestral shrine. They surrounded him in circles and launched an extremely fierce attack. The Blood Immortal sword and the sacrificial death sword circled around Siku. Their sword lights flickered, but Siku could see that the 2 divine swords were already having trouble blocking the attacks. Moreover, peak creator-level experts had appeared in the ancestral shrine. Just those few peak creator-level experts were enough to make the sacrificial death sword and the Blood Immortal sword tremble. They wouldn't be able to protect them for long. When the sacrificial death sword and the Blood Immortal sword were about to collapse, an even more terrifying sword light shot out from the small world attached to Siku's clothes. Terrifying thunder and fire energy spread out in all directions with Siku as the center. The 2 types of energy, thunder and fire, flashed alternately. The peak creator-level Phoenix people who were about to defeat the sacrificial death sword and the Blood Immortal sword were shocked. They didn't even have time to retreat before they were swept in by the thunder and fire energy. The thunder and fire energy was too terrifying. These peak creator-level Phoenix people screamed in pain. However, their screams didn't last long. A sword light shot out from the thunder and fire domain and directly pierced through their foreheads. These peak creator-level Phoenix people didn't even have time to make a sound before they died. Their bodies were burned into ashes by the thunder and fire. A bunch of trash and ants. How dare you bully my little brother in front of me? You really don't know what's good for you. Today, I'll beat you until your parents won't recognize you. After killing the peak creator-level Phoenix people, Xiao He was very smug. He shouted in a strange voice and cut through the void, rushing into the group of Phoenix people in the ancestral shrine. These Phoenix people who rushed out of the ancestral shrine were basically only creator-level cultivators. Although they were strong, in front of Xiao He, they were just displaying their slight skills in front of an expert. None of them could withstand one of Xiao He's attacks. Keep going. Into the ancestral shrine. Zhuowen's voice rang out again. Siku nodded. After Xiao He came out, he relaxed a lot. He knew that the Thunder Fire Sword was the highest level divine weapon Zhuowen had. It was a powerful mid-stage heavenly crossing realm divine weapon. Other than the two fire gods guarding the ancestral shrine, the rest of the Phoenix people were nothing in front of the Thunder Fire Sword. You've got guts. How dare you trespass into the ancestral shrine? You're asking for death. A thunderous shout came from the depths of the ancestral shrine. Immediately, a terrifying attack formed into a sharp sword shape and blasted toward Siku's vitals. The sword shape's power was too terrifying. It carried with it an unparalleled killing intent that sealed off all of Siku's escape routes. Sai Kushin's heart was in his throat. He could sense the scent of death in this sword form. Just like that, his feet seemed to be rooted to the ground, and he didn't move an inch. I'm done for. Siku's face stiffened with fear. His eyes dimmed. Rumble. However, just as Siku was about to resign himself to death, a figure shot out of the great world at the corner of his clothes and punched the incoming sword shape. Bang bang bang. The sound of collisions rang out incessantly. Immediately after, the terrifying sword shape was shattered by the person's punch. The energy ripples formed from the collision spread out in all directions, forming a vast wave of energy. Siku, enter my great world. Before Siku could react, Zhuowen grabbed him by the collar and pulled him into his great world. Then, he stepped through the entrance of the ancestral shrine and entered it. However, the moment he stepped into the ancestral shrine, he immediately felt a resistance. Dense array ripples appeared around him. He knew that there should be a powerful array restriction set up inside the ancestral shrine. It's just a creation realm defensive array. Break. Zhuowen snorted coldly and threw a punch as well. He used the formation Dao cracking technique to land on the restriction. With a crack, the array restriction at the entrance was instantly broken by Zhuowen. Zhuowen took the opportunity to enter the ancestral shrine. How dare you, scoundrel! The moment Zhuowen entered the ancestral temple, the owner of the sword-shaped figure in the depths of the ancestral temple had already rushed out. When he saw Zhuowen actually enter the ancestral temple, he was furious and directly chased after him. Chapter 3263. Edited by Mickey. The Phoenix Bloodpool. The expert who had rushed out of the ancestral shrine was naturally one of the two fire gods guarding the shrine. He was at the early heaven-piercing lord level. This fire deity looked like a middle-aged man. His red hair soared into the sky like a cluster of burning red flames. Zhuowen stood at the entrance of the ancestral shrine and calmly looked at this fire god. He suddenly took out the Huyi divine arrow and narked it on the bowstring of the Huyi divine bow. When he was halfway done, he released two fingers, and the Huyi divine arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning, carrying a terrifying killing intent as it charged at the fire god. The fire god, who had been charging at Zhuowen with murderous intent, trembled in fear when he sensed the Huyi divine arrow's terrifying killing intent. Shit, it's actually the Huyi divine arrow. The middle-aged man immediately stopped and turned to flee. The moment he sensed the Huyi divine arrow's terrifying killing intent, he knew that it was not something he could resist, so he decisively fled. But it was too late. No matter how fast he was, he could not be faster than the Huyi divine arrow. As soon as he turned around, Huyi's divine arrow pierced through the back of his head and pierced through his head. The middle-aged man did not even have the chance to scream before he died. After killing the middle-aged man, Zhuowen used the torch dragon's eye and immediately saw the other fire god in the depths of the ancestral shrine. This fire god's divine sense had clearly seen everything that had happened here and knew that Zhuowen had a terrifying divine weapon like the Huyi divine arrow. He was quietly leaving the ancestral shrine. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had already set his sights on him. Stay. After retrieving the Huyi divine arrow, Zhuowen narked it on the Huyi divine arrow again and shot it into the depths of the ancestral shrine. Not long after, the other fire deity in the depths of the ancestral temple who was ready to make a move and escape was directly nailed to the ground. Even in death, he could not figure out how Zhuowen knew his specific location. The Phoenix people's ancestral shrine. Zhuowen flicked his sleeve and put away the Huyi god arrow, and then he stepped into the ancestral shrine while a trace of coldness appeared in his eyes. Zhuowen stomped his foot on the ground and executed the fate space-time annihilation. A long purple river suddenly swept out from the void behind him. The purple river became more and more turbulent and expanded, eventually enveloping the entire ancestral hall. Wherever the purple river enveloped, space-time was distorted and shattered. In just an instant, the space where the ancestral temple was located was completely shattered and distorted. The huge ancestral temple collapsed and eventually turned into ruins. Through Torch Dragon's eyes, Zhuowen saw the entrance of a hidden underground passage hidden in the ruins. At this moment, the battle on the Thunder Fire Sword side was basically over. Most of the experts guarding the ancestral shrine had been killed by Xiao He and the Blood Fairy Sword and the Sacrificial Sword. Zhuowen flicked his sleeve and put away the 3 divine swords. After that, Zhuowen went into the hidden underground passage. Zhuowen's actions were too big. He had directly destroyed the ancestral shrine and completely alarmed the Phoenix people. What's going on? There seems to be a strong battle coming from the ancestral shrine. Did someone break into the Phoenix people? How is that possible? Don't you know the status of the Phoenix people in the Eldritch Heavenly Realm? In the Eldritch Heavenly Realm, who would dare to offend the Phoenix people and break into the Phoenix people? Unless that person has a screw loose. The experts of the Phoenix people in the main city came out of their seclusion and rushed towards the ancestral shrine. However, the moment they came out, they found that the magnificent ancestral shrine in the southeast of the main city had been turned into ruins. Who is it? How dare he tear down the ancestral shrine of the Phoenix people? We must catch the culprit and make him pay a painful price. All the Phoenix people experts were furious. They madly gathered at the ancestral shrine. Among them were the other 3 fire deities who were still in the main city. The 3 fire deities were also angry, but they were calmer than the others. They sent out a message to seal off the entire Phoenix people. Then, they led the elites of the Phoenix people and rushed towards the ancestral shrine. The basement was very spacious. In the middle of the basement was a pool of magma-like water that emitted a scorching aura that made him uncomfortable. Through the Torch Dragon's eye, Zhuowen saw that there were many divine souls floating in the pool. However, these divine souls were very weak. They were only about 1/10,000th of a complete divine soul. Zhuowen knew that the pool in front of him was the Phoenix blood pool that Yuefu had mentioned. These divine souls should be the divine souls left behind by important figures of the Phoenix people. Back then, Elder Hong relied on the Phoenix blood pool to be resurrected. Zhuowen waved his right hand and caught a divine soul in his hand. He was very familiar with the aura of this divine soul. It was the divine soul left behind by the second elder of the Phoenix people. As the divine soul left behind here was too weak, it was basically in a state of unconsciousness. The divine soul of Elder Hong in his hand was the same. Without hesitation, Zhuowen crushed the last strand of Elder Hong's soul. Then, he unceremoniously stored the pool of Phoenix blood into his great world. Zhuowen also entered the great world. At this moment, in the great world, the saintess of the Phoenix people was sitting cross-legged on the shore of a small island in the middle of the lake. Her beautiful eyes were filled with determination. She wanted to become stronger than Zhuowen. Then, she would be able to break out of this great world and regain her freedom. Soon, the saintess of the Phoenix people noticed something strange. Then, she looked up and saw a stream of magma-like water pouring down from the sky. This can't be the Phoenix blood pool, right? The saintess of the Phoenix people was no stranger to the Phoenix blood pool. Because a divine soul of hers was in the Phoenix blood pool. The moment the water entered the great world, she felt the connection with her divine soul. But how was this possible? The Phoenix blood pool was placed in the ancestral shrine of the Phoenix people. The place was heavily guarded. How could Zhuoan break in? Zhuoan landed on the small island in the middle of the lake, not far from the saintess of the Phoenix people. Zhuoan looked at the saintess of the Phoenix people indifferently and said, "Saintess, please move aside." The saintess of the Phoenix people subconsciously moved aside. Zhuoan dug a deep pit not far from the attic of the small island in the middle of the lake. After the deep pit was completed, the phoenix blood that poured down from the sky fell into the deep pit, forming a new phoenix blood pool. Zhuoan, this is the phoenix blood pool? The saintess of the Phoenix people's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Zhuoan ignored the saintess of the Phoenix people. Instead, he said to Ghost Plume and Yin Wuxie, who had rushed over, "The two of you, destroy all the divine souls in the pool. I still have some matters to attend to outside. Oh right, remember not to let the saintess touch the pool water. Otherwise, you know the consequences." After giving his instructions, Zhuoan left the great world. The saintess of the Phoenix people was so angry that her chest heaved violently. Zhuoan had gone too far. He had actually ignored her completely. At the same time, the saintess of the Phoenix people had an ominous premonition. She guessed that Zhuoan had broken into the ancestral shrine. This kid had even destroyed the Phoenix blood pool. Could it be that he was like a fish in water among the Phoenix people? Could it be that no one could suppress him? That's impossible. This kid's aura is only at the peak of the God of Creation stage. No matter how strong he is, it's impossible for him to break out of the Phoenix people alive. As long as this kid dies, I'll have a chance to escape. Chapter 3264. The Ancestral Temple Ruins. Above the Ancestral Temple ruins, many Phoenix people gathered. The most eye-catching ones were the three leading figures. These three were the remaining three fire deities who had stayed behind to guard the Phoenix people. Among the three fire deities, one of them had a handsome face and was dressed in white. He looked like an elegant young master. His name was He Yu. The other one was a middle-aged dwarf who was less than 5 feet tall. His name was Wen Rui. The last one was an old man with white hair and a white beard. His name was He Xian. Among the three fire deities, his aura was the strongest. He was not any weaker than Gaoge. In fact, he was even stronger. At this moment, He Xian landed in the ancestral temple ruins. When he saw the other two dead fire deities, his eyes were filled with shock and anger. Both Jian Xiu and Jiao Yun are dead. They were killed in a short period of time. The killer must be at least a middle-stage master of heaven or above. He Xian's eyes were filled with fear as he spoke in a low voice. He Yu, Wen Rui, and the rest of the Phoenix people were also silent. They were shocked. It had only been a short while since they had sensed the fluctuations of the battle. However, Jian Xiu and Jiao Yun, two early-stage masters of heaven, had already died. If the opponent was really so strong, it would be difficult for He Xian, He Yu, Wen Rui, and the rest of the group to kill such an expert. I'll inform the two guardians of Xuanhua first. He Xian's eyes were solemn as he took out a communication jade talisman and sent a message to the two guardians of Xuanhua. He told them everything that had happened in the Phoenix people. Boom. After He Xian put away the communication jade talisman, the ancestral temple ruins suddenly collapsed. The tunnel that had been buried by the ruins was blasted open by a force. Zhuoan slowly walked out of the tunnel under everyone's watchful eyes. Zhuoan had already seen He Xian and the rest. He looked very calm as he looked at them and said indifferently, "Are you here to block the way?" He Xian and the others were all stunned. They didn't know this guy at all, but wasn't he a little too arrogant? They could all guess that this guy was the one who tore down the ancestral shrine. However, after this guy came out, he acted as if nothing had happened and even asked them why they were blocking the way. Just how big was this guy's nerves? "Friend, we have never seen you before. The Phoenix clan has no enmity with you. Why did you barge into our Phoenix clan's ancestral hall and destroy it? He Xian suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a deep voice. Although Zhuowen's aura was only that of a god of creation, He Xian didn't dare to be careless. He knew very well that since this person was able to destroy the ancestral temple and annihilate more than 10 guardians including the supervisor and Jiao Yun in a short period of time, this person was absolutely not a simple figure. He Xian didn't move. He Yu, Wen Rui, and the other Phoenix People's experts naturally didn't act rashly either. If you know my name, you'll know why I've come to you Phoenix People. Zhuowen said calmly. Who are you? He Xian asked, feeling that something was amiss. My name is Zhuowen. Zhuowen said calmly. He Xian's pupils shrank as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. Zhuowen's fame was too great during this period of time, and it had spread throughout the entire territory of the Phoenix clan. He Xian couldn't be more familiar with the name Zhuowen. However, he had never seen Zhuowen's appearance before. This was also why he hadn't recognized Zhuowen when he'd seen Zhuowen. The funny thing was that Feng Bumming had already led the 2 Xuanhua guardians and the other 7 fire deities to Phoenix Blood City to encircle and annihilate Zhuowen. However, he hadn't expected that Zhuowen would attack the Phoenix People's nest at this time. Zhuowen, you've killed many of our Phoenix people. Now, you've even tore down the ancestral shrine of the Phoenix People. Isn't that enough? Now that you've left the Phoenix People, we can treat it as if nothing had happened. He Xian took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart as he spoke to Zhuowen. Zhuowen's strength was simply too terrifying. Originally, when it was rumored that this kid had killed the 3 commanders and 2 elders of Phoenix Blood City, he didn't believe it and thought that it was just an exaggeration. Now that he saw that the 2 fire deities, Jian Xiu and Jiao Yun, had been dealt with in such a short time, he knew that this kid's strength was probably even stronger than the rumors. If they joined forces, it would be difficult to keep Zhuowen here. Furthermore, there was the risk of being completely wiped out. He Xian didn't dare to face a ruthless person like Zhuowen head-on. Of course, if there were experts like the 2 Xuanhua guardians in the clan, He Xian wouldn't dare to be so cowardly. He. You're sending me away now? Are you dreaming? Zhuowen walked forward step by step as the aura on his body rapidly increased. His entire body emitted a dazzling, crystalline light. In just an instant, Zhuowen arrived in front of He Xian and ruthlessly punched him. With this punch, Zhuowen used the profound meaning, sky-splitting blade and heaven and earth perishing at the same time. His punch had the majestic sharpness of the sky-splitting blade and the terrifying destructive energy of heaven and earth perishing at the same time. He Xian also punched out, but his expression quickly changed. Zhuowen's punch gave him too much pressure. Bang! The 2 fists collided, and the terrifying fist energy intertwined, sweeping up a terrifying astral wind energy. He Xian spat out a mouthful of blood and was directly sent flying. His right fist was smashed into pieces by Zhuowen's powerful fist energy. Instead of retreating, he advanced and caught up with He Yu, who was flying backward, and punched out again. He Yu's expression changed slightly. He found it hard to believe. This Zhuowen actually took his and Wen Rui's joint attack and advanced instead of retreating. This guy was too abnormal. Seeing that Zhuowen's attack was getting closer and closer, He Yu could only muster all the energy in his body to meet it. Bang! He Yu's hands were directly broken. Fortunately, he managed to block Zhuowen's attack. Before He Yu could celebrate, a sword light wrapped in thunder and fire swept out from Zhuowen's waist and quickly pierced through He Yu's forehead. He Yu only felt a pain in his forehead. Then, his sea of consciousness became chaotic and he lost consciousness. Bang! Chapter 3265. He Xian. The instant he killed He Yu, Zhuowen stomped his right foot in the air and rushed towards Wen Rui, who was still in a daze. Wen Rui was already scared out of his wits. When he saw Zhuowen rushing towards him, he cried out loudly and retreated continuously. Unfortunately, the instant Wen Rui retreated, he felt the surrounding space-time distort and stagnate. Wen Rui realized that a long purple river had appeared around him unknowingly. This long purple river swept over and controlled the space-time around him, causing his speed to drop to the lowest in a short period of time, as though he was in slow motion. The instant when Rui stopped, Zhuowen had already arrived in front of Wen Rui and punched towards him. Wen Rui knew that he had already missed the opportunity to dodge and could only muster all his strength to fight with Zhuowen. At the same time, he was also on guard against the thunder fire sword that was hidden in the dark. He knew very well that this Zhuowen was stronger than them, but he was not strong enough to kill them in one strike. He Yu died mainly because he was not on guard against the thunder fire sword that suddenly appeared. Boom! Wen Rui was slightly stronger than He Yu. When Zhuowen punched him, he retreated a few steps while Wen Rui retreated continuously with a groan. The instant Wen Rui retreated, the thunderfire sword streaked across the sky and flew towards Wen Rui's forehead. However, Wen Rui, who was already on guard, suddenly twisted his body and avoided his vital parts. The thunderfire sword only chopped off Wen Rui's legs. Hey! Your reaction is not bad, but under this Dragon Lord's sword, don't think that you can come out alive. Hehe! Die for this Dragon Lord. Xiao Hei was astonished, but soon let out a burst of lewd laughter. She once again streaked across the sky and fought with Wen Rui. Wen Rui was already injured and his legs were chopped off. His strength had dropped tremendously. Under the concentrated attacks of the thunder fire sword, he was almost exhausted and retreated continuously. Zhuowen did not intervene in the battle between Thunderfire Sword and Wen Rui. He knew that with Xiao Hei's power, it was more than enough to eliminate Wen Rui. Zhuowen looked around. He was now surrounded by dozens of Phoenix people, and He Xian, who had been repelled by him, had returned. He Xian's strength was the strongest among the three fire gods, so although he seemed to be in a sorry state just now, he actually did not suffer many injuries. Ah! A miserable cry rang out. Not far away, Xiao Hei flashed in the boundless domain of thunder and fire. She instantly pierced through Wen Rui's forehead, crushing his sea of consciousness and soul. She returned to Zhuowen's side. He Xian's eyes were filled with monstrous anger, but he still forced himself to calm down. He coldly stared at Zhuowen and said, "Zhuowen, that's enough. If you stop now, the Phoenix people can let bygones be bygones." Stop. Haha. Zhuowen laughed. The purple river that surrounded him instantly expanded like an angry dragon, turning into layers of purple waves that surged into the sky. Then, it swept towards the Phoenix people around him. At the same time, Zhuowen used the torch dragon's eyes. In his eyes, everything around him was moving in slow motion. In his eyes, the Phoenix people were full of flaws. Zhuowen was in the domain of the purple river. His body flickered like a ghost, and he held the Thunderfire sword in his right hand. He appeared in front of a Phoenix people expert and stabbed his sword, accurately landing on the forehead of this Phoenix people expert. This Phoenix people expert wanted to dodge, but he soon realized that it was all in vain. This sword had sealed off all his escape routes, forcing him to take this sword head-on. Poof! This Phoenix people expert wielded his divine weapon to block Zhuowen's sword, but he soon realized that his block was like a piece of paper. Zhuowen's sword flashed away and the sword light sank into his forehead. Blood splattered everywhere. This Phoenix people's eyes dimmed as he fell from the sky, turning into a lifeless corpse. Zhuowen's body flashed and flashed in the purple river like lightning. Every time he flashed, the sword light would spread and take the life of a Phoenix people. He Xian looked at the fallen experts of the Phoenix clan, his eyes filled with rage. He chased after Zhuowen with all his might. But in the domain of the Purple River, time and space were constantly distorted, hindering him from moving forward. He couldn't catch up with Zhuowen at all. He could only watch from the back as the subordinates he had brought were slaughtered. "Zhuowen, fight me face to face if you have the gut. What kind of ability is it to fight against them?" He Xian was anxious and roared at Zhuowen. Zhuowen just sneered and ignored He Xian. He was still flashing in the Purple River, reaping the lives of the Phoenix people around him. When Zhuowen stabbed the last Phoenix people expert with the Thunder Fire Sword, the Purple River suddenly rolled and rolled up 100-feet-high wave, crushing down on He Xian below. "He Xian, it's your turn now." Zhuowen stood on the purple wave and looked down at He Xian below. The murderous intent in his eyes was monstrous and terrifying. He Xian's face was pale. At this moment, Zhuowen's aura was too terrifying. He felt a trace of fear in his heart. Boom, boom, boom. The purple wave suddenly crushed down and drowned He Xian in an instant. He Xian roared to the sky and stirred up all the strength in his body to form a terrifying energy spiral, barely resisting the surging purple wave. Bang! All of a sudden, a hole was torn open in the waves, and a sharp sword qi rushed out. He Xian looked and saw Zhuowen holding the thunder fire sword and slashing at him. The thunder fire energy turned into the most condensed and sharp attack, and together with the surrounding purple river, it blasted on the energy spiral in front of He Xian. Boom! The energy spiral didn't last long and was crushed into countless pieces by the terrifying double energy. Before He Xian could react, his chest was pierced by the thunderfire sword and nailed to the ground. Countless purple waves receded, and Zhuowen stepped out and stepped on He Xian's chest. He Xian's face was pale. He took a deep breath and asked with a gloomy look, "Why didn't you kill me?" He Xian knew that if Zhuowen had used the thunderfire sword to target his glabella, his divine soul would have been annihilated by now. But Zhuowen didn't, and it was obvious that the former did it deliberately. "I have a question for you. As long as you answer it well, I'll spare your dog life," Zhuowen said indifferently. The death intent in He Xian's eyes faded a lot. He stared at Zhuowen with wide eyes, and after seeing that Zhuowen was not lying, he nodded. "Ask away. As long as I know, I will answer you. Is there a human called Mu Chunxue imprisoned in the Phoenix Purgatory?" Zhuowen asked with a fervent gaze. He Xian narrowed his eyes, looked deeply at Zhuowen, and asked tentatively, "Did you come to the Phoenix people for that human called Mu Chunxue?" However, just as He Xian finished speaking, Zhuowen stomped his face to the ground. "Right now, I'm the one asking you, not you. You just need to answer me," Zhuowen said coldly. He Xian's eyes were filled with humiliation. He thought for a moment and said, "Yes, there is indeed a human imprisoned in the Phoenix Purgatory. I don't know if she is called Mu Chunxue." Zhuowen's gaze softened, and he continued, "Then can you release the person in the Phoenix Purgatory?" Chapter 3266. The news has been exposed. Only the Grand Elder can release the prisoners from the Phoenix Purgatory. Zhuowen frowned. Before he entered the Phoenix people, he already knew from Yuefu that the Grand Elder and Third Elder had left the Phoenix people for some important matter. Zhuowen didn't care about why the Grand Elder and Third Elder had left the Phoenix people. His main concern now was Mu Chunxue's situation. "Then I'll destroy this Phoenix Purgatory." Zhuowen snorted coldly. Carrying He Xian, he instantly arrived in front of the Phoenix Purgatory. Zhuowen had killed most of the Phoenix race's upper echelon experts in one breath. Now, many of the Phoenix race's clansmen avoided Zhuowen like the plague. Who would dare to stop him? The Phoenix Purgatory was a tower burning with black flames. The surface of the tower was sealed, and there wasn't even a window. Zhuowen didn't even see the existence of an entrance at the bottom of the tower. Boom! Zhuowen threw He Xian to the ground and punched the Phoenix Purgatory. Boom! Countless black flames exploded and spread from Zhuowen's fist to his entire body like maggots in a tarsal bone. Zhuowen groaned and retreated. He wanted to extinguish the black flames on his body, but found that the black flames were extremely difficult to extinguish. The surface of his body was almost burnt. Zhuowen could only use the profound creation mysterious light. It took a lot of effort to extinguish the black flames on his body. He stopped, and the injuries on his body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, his eyes were filled with shock. What was the black flames on the surface of the Phoenix Purgatory? They were so strange and difficult to deal with. He Xian, who had been thrown aside, looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. The black flames on the surface of the Phoenix Purgatory were the flames of the Phoenix. They were immortal and could burn forever. Even if he was entangled by the black flames, he would have to pay a great price to extinguish them. However, Zhuowen seemed to be able to extinguish the flames easily, and he didn't seem to be injured at all. Thinking of this, He Xian looked at Zhuowen with more fear and respect. Zhuowen took out the Huyi godly arrow and the Huyi godly bow. He pulled the bowstring of the Huyi godly bow to its limit. Instantly, the Huyi godly arrow soared into the sky with terrifying power, slamming into the surface of the Phoenix Purgatory. But what made Zhuowen frown was that the Huyi divine arrow's power only left a shallow mark on the surface of the Phoenix divine arrow. After putting away the Huyi godly bow and Huyi godly arrows, Zhuowen gave up on the idea of destroying the Phoenix Purgatory. Even Huyi's godly arrow had only left a very shallow mark on the surface of the tower. With his current abilities, it was basically impossible for him to destroy such a sturdy structure. Do you know the way to enter the Phoenix Purgatory? Zhuowen was unwilling to give up. This Phoenix Purgatory was too strange. He couldn't destroy it at all. And he was unwilling to leave this place just like that. After all, Mu Chunxue was in the Phoenix Purgatory. He had to go in and take a look. Otherwise, he would be unwilling to leave. He Xian's eyes flickered as he hurriedly said, "It's very simple to enter the Phoenix Purgatory. You just need to leave a prisoner's mark on your hand and you can enter." As soon as He Xian finished speaking, his face was immediately stomped into the ground by Zhuowen. "You want me to be a prisoner of the Phoenix people?" Zhuowen said coldly. He Xian continued to struggle and hurriedly explained, "No, I'm just telling you the way to enter the Phoenix Purgatory. What I need is a way to enter without using a prisoner's mark," Zhuowen said indifferently. He had learned about the Phoenix Purgatory from Yuefu. He knew that the prisoners that the Phoenix people had captured for countless years were all ferocious existences. He knew very well that since the Phoenix people could suppress these ferocious prisoners, they must have a way to control them. The prisoner's mark was probably a way for the Phoenix people to control them. If he agreed to imprint the prisoner's mark, it would be really bad. He Xian was silent. "If you don't say it, you'll die immediately." Zhuowen's eyes were like torches, and his voice was filled with killing intent. He Xian finally panicked. He hurriedly said, "I'll say it. Please spare my life, Lord Zhuo." Zhuowen raised his foot and looked at He Xian coldly. "Then quickly say it." He Xian stood up in a sorry state. His eyes flickered as he said, "The upper echelons of the Phoenix people are the 2 protectors of Xuanhua, the 3 elders, and the 12 fire god. Although there are rumors of the Phoenix Master's existence, the Phoenix Master has not appeared for too long. We all thought that the Phoenix Master had fallen. Our blood essence can open the undying bird purgatory once, but using blood essence to open the purgatory has a huge price. If that's the case, then help me open it. But now is not the time." Zhuowen's eyes were cold. After he finished speaking, he said to Siku who had followed him, "Brother Siku, thank you for bringing me into the Phoenix people. What happens next has nothing to do with you. You can leave the Phoenix people first." As he spoke, Zhuowen took out a divine pill and handed it to Siku. He said, "This is a complete 7 transformation curse pill. The ones I gave you are all half-finished products. They can only delay the curse power in your body. However, this complete 7 transformation curse pill can completely eradicate the curse power in your body." Siku's eyes were filled with excitement. He took the divine pill and knelt in front of Zhuowen. He said gratefully, "Thank you, Lord Zhuo. Thank you. You deserve it. Go quickly," Zhuowen said with a smile. Siku solemnly cupped his fists at Zhuowen and left the Phoenix people. Under Zhuowen's gaze, no one in the Phoenix people dared to stop Siku. Moreover, Zhuowen also knew that once Siku left the Phoenix people, with Siku's powerful talent, it would be extremely difficult for the Phoenix people to find Siku in the future. After Siku left, Zhuowen sealed He Xian's freedom and began to set up a terrifying array around the Phoenix Purgatory. This time, Zhuowen's speed of setting up the grand array was extremely fast. Since he wanted to enter the Phoenix Purgatory, he naturally had to ensure his own safety. That was the most important thing. At this moment, in Phoenix Blood City, Feng Bumming and the others, who were trapped in the 12 Divine Fiends array, all had ugly expressions. They had received news from the Phoenix people that the main city of the Phoenix people had been attacked. Moreover, the ancestral temple in the main city had been destroyed and the hidden Phoenix blood pool was also taken away. What made Feng Buming and Xian Hua even more incredulous was that the initiator of all this was actually Zhuowen. What's going on? That Zhuowen was in the Bloodshed Tea House in Phoenix Blood City. When did he run to the Phoenix people? Feng Buming found it unbelievable. He Xian's face was cold as he looked at Yuefu beside Feng Buming and said, "Buming, it seems that we have been fooled. The Zhuowen hiding in the Bloodshed Tea House should be an insignificant doppelganger of that Zhuowen. This clone merely borrowed the power of the 12 Overseer Divine Wraith formation to delay us, while his actual body circled around to launch a sneak attack on our Phoenix clan. All of this should have been planned by that bitch and Zhuowen." As soon as He Xian said this, Shuehua and the other experts of the Phoenix people looked at Yuefu with unfriendly gazes. Yuefu's delicate body trembled as she quickly approached Feng Buming and said, "Buming, don't listen to their nonsense. How could I give you false information? The one who ambushed the Phoenix people should be someone else." Chapter 3267. Three Great Arrays. Buming. Yuefu looked at Feng Buming in disbelief and hurriedly said, "Yuefu, whether you did it intentionally or not, you did help Zhuowen and gave us false information." Feng Buming's gaze was as cold as ice. With a wave of his sleeve, a flame entered Yuefu's forehead. Yuefu didn't even make a sound before she fell to the ground and died. "Guardians, how long will it take for this great array to be broken?" Feng Buming asked anxiously after erasing Yuefu's soul. "If we work together, it should take 3 days," He Xian said in a deep voice. "Then try to be as fast as possible. I'll contact the Phoenix Master now and inform the Phoenix people of everything that happened." Feng Buming took out his communication jade talisman and sent a message. "The Phoenix Master's whereabouts are mysterious and he hasn't been in the clan for a long time. Are you sure he can receive your message?" Shuehua said with a frown. "That's the only way now. After all, we can't rush back yet. Even if we break this great array and rush back, it will take 6 to 7 days. During this time, Zhuowen might have already escaped." Feng Buming said helplessly. "Wait. He Xian sent us a message saying that Zhuowen's purpose in coming to the Phoenix people is for a human called Mu Chunxue. Right now, Zhuowen is trying to enter the Phoenix Purgatory." He Xian took out his communication jade talisman and glanced at it before hurriedly saying, "Mu Chunxue? This kid is actually looking for Mu Chunxue. Well done. If this kid enters the Phoenix Purgatory, that would be the best. Once he enters, he won't be able to come out." Feng Buming sneered. It seems that Zhuowen doesn't know that Mu Chunxue has been taken away by the Grand Elder and the others. This is for the best. After this kid enters the Phoenix Purgatory, we won't be in a hurry. There's plenty of time. Shuehua nodded. 5 days later, Zhuowen set up the last Transcendence Grand Formation, looking exhausted. In these 5 days, Zhuowen had successively set up 3 Grand Heaven Grade Grand Formations. They were the 12 Divine Fiends Grand Formation, the 10 Directional Cloud Annihilation Grand Formation, and the Heavenly Law Heavenly Toad Limitless Grand Formation. Moreover, Zhuowen had strengthened all 3 of these Great Heaven Ascension formations. Their power was now comparable to that of a Great Heaven Ascension formation. These 3 Heaven Ascension Grand Formations were closely linked and placed around the Phoenix Purgatory. They complemented each other, and a slight change in one part could affect the whole situation. Their power was comparable to that of a Heaven Ascension Grand Formation in the late stage. Zhuowen believed that no matter how many mid-stage Heavenly Ascension Realm fighters came, they would not be able to break this formation. Even if a late-stage Skyreach Lord came, it would be difficult for him to break this formation in a short period of time. On the other hand, He Xian was trembling with fear as he watched from the side. He could clearly feel the terror of these 3 grand formations. As long as he entered the range of these grand formations, he would not be able to hold on for long before he was blasted into pieces. Zhuowen lifted He Xian and released the shackles on him. He said, "Now open the Phoenix Purgatory." He Xian did not dare to disobey. In these 5 days, he had seen how terrifying Zhuowen was. He knew that he was far from being a match for this freak. In front of this person, he would be courting death if he resisted. He Xian bit his finger, then pressed his palm against the wall of the tower that was covered in black flames. Zhuowen was surprised to find that the black flames seemed to have a mind of their own. They did not attack He Xian. Instead, they separated into a gap big enough for a palm to fit in. The moment He Xian's palm pressed against the wall, his blood essence was crazily absorbed. Dense blood-red lines appeared on the black surface of the tower. When the blood-red lines covered the entire tower, He Xian's face was pale as he withdrew his hand. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Zhuowen did not pay attention to He Xian. Instead, he silently observed the changes in the tower. He saw that the blood-red lines on the surface of the tower began to gather together rapidly. Finally, they gathered at the bottom of the tower, in front of Zhuowen, forming a blood-red vortex that could fit a person. Zhuowen, how dare you run amok in the Phoenix people and kill our Phoenix people? At this moment, outside the main city of the Phoenix people, a thunderous voice sounded. Zhuowen raised his head and looked outside the main city. He saw a flying divine artifact rushing towards him. On the deck of the flying divine artifact, Feng Buming was standing at the front. On both sides of Feng Buming were the two guardians of Xuanhua. Feng Buming's eyes were filled with blazing killing intent as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. He wished he could appear beside Zhuowen right now and kill him. Unfortunately, Zhuowen would not give Feng Buming this opportunity. Idiot! Zhuowen only said this sentence before he stepped into the blood-red vortex. Soon, the blood-red vortex disappeared. However, the moment the blood-red vortex disappeared, Zhuowen threw out a formation flag. The moment the formation flag landed outside the Phoenix Purgatory, the three formations that Zhuowen had carefully set up were immediately activated. A terrifying killing intent soared into the sky, and waves of formation energy swept out like waves. He Xian, who was still beside the undying bird purgatory, had a look of fear in his eyes. He screamed as he was drowned by the energy of the array. His entire body collapsed into countless blood mist, and he couldn't be more dead. When Feng Buming and the others rushed to the Phoenix Purgatory, the last thing they saw was He Xian being crushed into powder by the three heavenly-level killing formations. Ah! Zhuowen, I, Feng Buming, swear that I will peel off your skin, pull out your tendons, and pull out your soul. I will burn you in the divine fire forever and suffer all the pain in the world. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Feng Buming stopped in front of the three great formations. He could only watch helplessly as He Xian died in front of them. The anger in his eyes was almost surging. The two guardians of the profound fire and the 7 fire gods behind them were also furious. This Zhuowen was too arrogant. He dared to kill He Xian in front of them. This was a ruthless slap to their faces. Xuehua, break the formation with me. He Xian did not say anything, but the killing intent on his body was the strongest among all of them. He called out to Xuehua and exploded with all his strength, attacking the three great formations in front of him. Xuehua naturally did not want to fall behind. He and He Xian cooperated very well. Together, they exploded with terrifying energy. However, the moment the two of them attacked the great formations, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no movement at all. Instead, from the three great formations, there was a surging wave of counterforce energy. It bombarded the two of them, causing them to fly backward and crash onto the ground in a sorry state. Poochie. The two guardians of the profound fire spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their faces were pale. What? What kind of great formation is this? How can it be so powerful? Feng Buming calmed down, but his eyes were full of shock. The two guardians of the profound fire were experts in the middle stage of the Master of Heaven. They were seriously injured by the counterforce of the formation. These are three Master of Heaven-level great formations, and they complement each other. The two of us can't do anything to them at all. I'm afraid only the Phoenix Master can break this formation. Xuehua's eyes were filled with shock and anger. The Phoenix Master has received my news. He is a guest at the Sorcerer Tribe. He should be back soon, Feng Buming said calmly. The Phoenix Master is back. That's great. The two guardians of the profound fire and the other 7 fire gods were surprised when they heard this. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.